Chapter 2750. Xia Jingyuan's kiss was like Yi Qian's salvation. Her fluttering heart slowly came to a stop, and finally stopped at the harbor that belonged to her. Let bygones be bygones. No matter how great the damage was, it's history now. Yi Qian, you have to remember that you're a powerful Special Forces soldier. You're a Special Forces soldier who survived through the flames of war. You're not even afraid of death, so why are you afraid of being hurt? No matter how deep the damage is, it should be forgotten with time. Comparing your own life to a single injury, which is more important. Qing Niao, you're a soldier with a mission. You have to be strong. You have to be strong like an iron wall. You have to be strong like a sword. Only in this way can you save more lives and do more meaningful things. Only in this way can you live up to your military uniform. Xia Jinyuan didn't ask what Yi Qian had experienced in the past that left such a deep wound in her heart. He knew the girl he loved too well. She could endure things, but she could also keep them to herself. If she didn't want to talk about it, it would only make her shrink back. The only way was to wait for her to bring it up herself. He didn't want her to resist. He only hoped that she would let nature take its course. Yi Qian, who was suffering from a nightmare, was at a loss. She felt a comforting embrace that gradually brought her back to her senses. She gradually regained her rationality and calmness that she had lost. Yi Qian stroked the worried face of his handsome face and said softly, "Captain Xia, do you believe that people have a past life? Do you believe it?" In her past life, she wasn't a powerful Special Forces soldier. In her past life, she was just an ordinary girl who was forced to break her back by Yi Jifan's family. She had suffered all the sufferings of the world, tasted all the sorrows of the world, tasted all the coldness and warmth of the world. In the end, she had died in the most cowardly way, a dignified death that she had fought her entire life for. She had perished together with the thing that had harmed her. People said that she was strong, fearless, and brave. In her past life, she probably only found some similarities with herself in this life because she perished together with the bad guys. The difference between the past life and the present was like heaven and earth. Captain Xia was right. The damage was already in the past. No matter how great the damage was, it had already become history. Yi Jifan had received his retribution, Sun Ying was receiving her retribution, and Sun Dongqing had fallen from her position as an official's wife into the mud. Those who had bullied her, betrayed her, and humiliated her had been dealt with. Since her inner demons had mostly dissipated, why did she still care about her final encounter before her death? Xia Jinyuan was an atheist. He didn't believe in such things as past and present lives. But Yi Qian's serious question made him pause for a while, and then he said softly, "Huang Liang's dream, Zhuang Sheng's dream of butterflies. It's all about the past and present life. There are too many things in this world that we don't know, too many mysteries that exist that we can't solve. Reality and illusion, life and death, all of it is within our thoughts. If people really do have past and present lives, if you believe it, I will too. They all say that I had accumulated good fortune in my past life to have you. That means that I must have been a very, very good person in my past life to have you in this life. Little fox, you in your past life, you in this life, you now, and you when you speak. Can you differentiate between reality and illusion? It's very difficult. We're alive now, which is our past life, or maybe our present life. It's like a dream or an illusion. It doesn't matter if you believe in the past or present life, or if you don't. I only believe that you are the love of my life, the woman that I want to be with for the rest of my life." Chapter 2751. Whether it was the previous life or this life, there was no need to think so much. Just think about who you love, who you are thinking about, and who you are holding hands with. Yi Qian stared blankly at the man who was talking to her. She was still in a daze and asked in confusion, "You mean to say that the previous life was actually a dream? I dreamt that I lived a lifetime in a dream and mistook the dream for the previous life?" Yes, you can treat the so-called previous life as a dream. Even if you dreamt that you had lived a lifetime, it was still just a dream. When you wake up from the dream, you will also wake up. As you wake up, the joys and sorrows in the dream are no longer important. The pain in the dream is even less important. Why would there be sudden enlightenment, sudden awakening, and a night of understanding? Actually, it's similar to a golden beam dream and Zhuang Xing's dream of a butterfly. Some people get inspired in their dreams and suddenly work hard. This is not unheard of. Xia Jinyuan was actually a little confused as to why Yi Qian would mention the previous life. However, based on his intuition and his understanding of Yi Qian, he vaguely felt that something was wrong with Yi Qian just now. It had something to do with the previous life, she mentioned. In the dream, did his lover dream that she was living a miserable life? Did she dream that her life ended miserably? That was also a possibility. After all, when Little Fox was young, she had lived under Sun Dongqing's abuse. She had also been bullied by Sun Ying. She had been surrounded by a pack of wolves and so-called relatives who wished for her to live a miserable life. It was not impossible for her to have spent the rest of her life under stress. Yi Qian was extremely shocked. A sudden awakening, a night of understanding. Actually, it's similar to Huang Liang's dream and Zhuang Xing's dream of a butterfly. Some people get inspired in their dreams and suddenly work hard. This is not something that has never happened before. Could it be that my so-called previous life was really a dream? Was it really a dream? No, it was not a dream. How could a dream be so real? It could not be a dream. It was definitely not a dream. But Captain Xia didn't believe it. He didn't believe in past and present lives. He only believed in Huang Liang's dream. Her impulse to tell the truth gradually cooled down. Her head, which was so hot that it was as if it had been filled with paste, gradually regained her rationality. She wanted to confess to Captain Xia, but if he didn't believe her, she would really have to keep it as a permanent secret in her heart. Yi Qian gently closed his eyes. Deep in his heart, he let out a long sigh. Just let her continue to hide her secret. Meanwhile, Xia Jinyuan watched as Yi Qian closed her eyes. The helpless look on her face, which resembled that of an abandoned child, gradually disappeared as she closed her eyes. Even her complexion regained some color. He glanced at her legs, lowered his head, and kissed the tip of her nose. He said gently, "If you really believe me, after our training is over, I'll accompany you to look for it during the holidays. Now you have to lie down properly and take off your dirty pants to change into clean ones. If you don't have the strength, I'll change it for you. If you have the strength, I'll step back and you can change it yourself." The air suddenly froze, and Yi Qian's face seemed to be congested with blood. With a bang, it was so red that it was as if it was on fire. Just now, she suddenly recalled the last scene of her previous life because she clearly felt someone taking off her pants. That's right. Captain Xia also said that he was the one taking off her pants. He was the one taking off her pants. Chapter 2752. Yi Jian only felt that all the blood in her body rushed to the top of her head. It rushed until her face and ears turned red and she felt dizzy. One could imagine the embarrassment in her heart. She wished she could dig a hole and bury herself directly. Now that her mind was clear, her rationality and calmness returned to her. However, Yi Qian felt that it would be better to continue being muddle-headed and let Captain Xia do whatever he wanted. She was muddle-headed anyway. Now that she was clear-headed, she felt so embarrassed that she wanted to faint again. Her face was as red as a blooming hibiscus, and her eyes were as clear as a mountain stream in winter. They were so touching that it tugged at one's heartstrings. She pursed her red lips awkwardly and didn't dare to look at Xia Jinyuan. Her gaze was evasive. Seeing this, Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but curl up his lips, but he quickly suppressed it. His voice was low and sexy as he asked her, "Does your stomach hurt a lot? You've been standing for 5.5 hours. Qing Miao, your endurance is amazing. You surprised everyone and impressed us all. Yi Qian didn't have any symptoms of dysmenorrhea, but because she was drenched in the rain last night, her lower abdomen felt sore and swollen. It was indeed uncomfortable. After he mentioned it, Yi Qian, who was so embarrassed that she wanted to dig a hole, subconsciously felt a pain in her lower abdomen. A sudden, twisting pain came and caught her off guard, causing her to frown. Xia Jinyuan also frowned because of her frown. He placed his warm hand on her lower abdomen and said, "I've read a female physiology book. It says that before and after your period, women shouldn't be drenched in the rain and eat raw and cold food. And you, who often go through wind and rain and eat raw and cold food with us, the cold must have entered your body long ago." His deep voice sounded very serious as he gently caressed Yi Qian's lower abdomen with his large hand, using the warmth of his palm to dispel the discomfort in Yi Qian's lower abdomen. No, Captain Xia, you don't need to know so much." The amount of information was too much, and the momentum was too fierce. So much so that a thin-skinned person like Yi Qian couldn't handle it at all. He even stuttered when he spoke. She even read books on female physiology and knew about menstruation. Someone should hit her and make her faint. Colonel Xia, on the other hand, was unperturbed. "It's good to know a little. I remember that your period is 2 days late. Why did it come early today? Don't you feel it yourself? The book says that girls will feel something before their period comes, so they can prepare in advance. You didn't prepare at all, and I didn't expect it either." If he knew, the punishment would not be delayed, but it would be done in a different way. Yi Jian felt as if she was being roasted over and over again on a fire rack. Her body was burning hot and her entire body was burning red. I can either bring it forward 2 days or push it back. It's not very accurate." As Yi Qian stammered, he felt like biting his tongue to commit suicide. He was going crazy. Why did she have to answer? He could have chosen not to answer. He could have chosen to remain silent and refuse. You still need to be more careful in the future. You're still young, so you don't feel it. When you get older, the root of your illness will come out. Xia Jinyuan, who was focused on gently rubbing Yi Qian's lower abdomen, didn't even raise his head to look at Yi Qian. He knew that Yi Qian must be so embarrassed that she didn't know where to look. Her skin was too thin. Sometimes, even a kiss would make her blush for a long time. Now that they were talking about a girl's private matters, he was afraid that she would be so embarrassed that she would close her eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. Chapter 2753. Xia Jinyuan knew Yi Qian well. She was so embarrassed that Yi Qian really closed her eyes. She didn't want to make eye contact with him for even half a second. Raise your arms and bend your legs. See if your joints are still stiff. Don't force it, or you'll strain your joints and ligaments. If you stand still for 5.5 hours, your joints won't be able to move and your muscles won't be supplied with blood. It will cause a series of temporary side effects, such as limb disharmony. Under normal circumstances, when we complete anti-exposure training, you support me and I'll support you. We have to walk at least 500 meters back and forth to move our joints before we can rest. You fainted and didn't get to move at all. Now that you're in my arms, you won't even get to move. Come, bend your left knee, let me see. Yi Qian's attention wasn't on this at all. She was so embarrassed that she just wanted to escape. She closed her eyes and said, "Put me down, I'll move on my own. You don't stay by my side, I'll handle it myself. Please, hurry up and leave." If the two of them stayed any longer, she felt so embarrassed that she wouldn't be able to face anyone. Also, K7 knew that she was on her period. K7 also knew that she was on her period. Then, Captain Xia carried the unconscious her into the forest to change her pants. K7 was the team's military doctor. Thinking that K7 might know that Xia Jinyuan changed her pants, Yi Qian was so embarrassed that she wanted to cry. She was too embarrassed to face anyone. She was too embarrassed to face anyone. If she fainted, Captain Xia would definitely let K7 check on her first. As for taking off her pants, K7 would definitely do it. Yes. Can. Say. Out. Come. Yi Qian felt like she had lost all hope. Did they know that I'm on my period? She even asked until she felt like her heart was dead. Xia Jinyuan pondered for a moment and answered honestly, basically, you have the smell of blood on you, and you're not injured. I carried you in and changed into a combat uniform later. With their terrifying logic, I'm afraid they've already figured it out by now. Also, before you woke up, I stopped them from coming over. I'm afraid that they also know that I changed your pants. Yi Qian wanted to go home. He didn't want to train with his terrifying comrades at all. Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but laugh when he saw the look of despair on her face. We're all transparent to each other. We don't ask each other much about our family matters. We don't even ask each other about our personal matters in the army, whether we slept with our wives or girlfriends during the holidays, what we did, how many times we did it, and how long we did it each time. Even these things aren't secret. Of course, I didn't say it personally. It was all guesswork. However, everyone's IQ was above average. Even if they were to guess, they would not be too far off from the mark. After you came, fortunately, you were a female soldier and didn't act too presumptuously. But in the future, you definitely won't let me off. In the future, if you hear any private matters between the two of us, just pretend that you didn't hear it. Ignore it and let me handle it. Thanks to the awkwardness of this matter, Yi Qian was able to forget all the pain from his previous life. He no longer thought about whether it was a dream or reality. Yi Qian was so embarrassed that he felt like his heart had died. He raised his trembling hand and pointed outside with a trembling finger. Captain Xia, please. Leave immediately. I'll change my pants myself. I'll change them myself. Chapter 2754. Yi Qian said with a trembling voice. Then, he added something very important. Also, when you get out of here, I'm the one who changed my pants. You didn't. Give her some face, give her some face. They wanted to cry. Xia Jinyuan said helplessly, it's too late for me to go out now. Be good. Anyway, they're already making wild guesses. You don't have to feel burdened. My pants should be stained with your blood. I'll put you down on the mattress first. You don't have to be shy in front of me. The corners of Yi Qian's eyes were watery. He was so embarrassed that he was about to cry. In both her previous and current lives, she had never encountered such a situation. From now on, Captain Xia, please shut up. Don't say a word to me. Also, don't mention my period, don't mention blood, don't mention my pants, and don't mention the word take off. If you mention it again, I'll get angry. I'll really get angry. The stern-looking Yi Qian crawled out of Xia Jinyuan's arms. This time, it was not a comforting hug, but a hug that made her uneasy. When Xia Jinyuan saw that she was alive again, a faint smile flashed across his eyes. She had suffered too much and suffered too much. She should spend the rest of her life with him. How could she be imprisoned by the past? Okay. I won't look. I'll get you some clothes. On the verge of tears, Xia Jinyuan immediately stopped talking. Everything he said was the truth, and there was not a single lie. Who would have thought that she would explode and even fall out with him? His little fox was a woman of her words. Xia Jinyuan turned around and glanced at Yi Qian from the corner of his eye. He saw that his beloved girl's face was as red as the morning sun and her eyes were as clear as water. She was so lively that there wasn't a single trace of gloominess in her. It was as if the little fox who had just experienced a nightmare and was exuding an aura of despair was just an illusion. It wasn't an illusion. He had seen it with his own eyes, and it couldn't be any more real. Previous life, this life? Hearing the rustling sounds behind him, Xia Jingyuan's slightly curved lips tightened. He recalled Uncle Jen mentioning that Little Fox's personality suddenly changed on the second day of the Lunar New Year. If he wanted to investigate, he would use the second day as the starting point to find out what else his little fox had experienced. Yi Qian, who was standing behind him, saw the large amount of blood on his pants. He wanted to cry but had no tears. How could there be so much blood? The blood stains on the boxers that reached half of his thighs were even larger. Flustered, Yi Qian stuffed his pants into a ball and reached for his backpack, only to find that it was in front of Xia Jinyuan again. She rubbed her face fiercely and covered herself with her pants again. She used a finger to poke the man's back. "Give me the backpack." "Let me." Xia Jinyuan, who was deep in thought, snapped out of his daze. He quickly took out a set of dry boxers for female soldiers and a set of camouflage combat pants. 2 pairs of pants and this. He then took out the sanitary bag that he had stuffed into his pocket earlier. This K7 said there were female products in there. I haven't seen them yet. Take a look and see if there are any. Female products. He had studied them before, but he had never put them into practice. Yi Qian remained expressionless the entire time. K7 even knows about female product. What kind of comrades are they? They know about female physiology books, menstruation, female products. They know about fighting and killing. What else do they not know? Chapter 2755. Yi Qian clenched her teeth and changed her pants when she thought of her invincible comrades. The after-effects of standing for 5.5 hours also started to appear. No, it should be because she didn't move at all and wasn't focused on herself. She was muddle-headed and didn't notice any symptoms after standing for 5.5 hours. When she bent down, Yi Jian felt as if there was a steel plate tied to her back. It was extremely difficult for her to bend down. The moment she bent down, she seemed to hear the sound of bones rubbing against each other. Ka-ka, a grinding sound was heard. She gasped softly. Before Xia Jinyuan realized it and turned around, Yi Qian forcefully suppressed the other half of her gasp. "Are you feeling unwell? Try not to bend your joints too much. Keep them straight." Xia Jinyuan heard her gasp clearly. He was constantly paying attention to every movement of the person behind him. Although he couldn't look at her directly, he was listening carefully. Yi Qian replied indifferently with a wooden face, "Shut up. Don't talk to me. I don't want to listen to him. I don't want to hear his voice. I don't want to feel awkward again." She only had one thought now: stay away from this group of comrades who even know about feminine products. Is it normal to know about feminine products? It's normal. It's just that Yi Qian can't accept it and feels very awkward. Xia Jinyuan could hear the tension in her cold voice and the embarrassment in her voice. The corners of his mouth curved slightly again. Little Fox is so good now. Like a bashfully blooming flower, its petals were stained with clear and translucent dewdrops, showing off its beauty to its heart's content. This is really good. If you want me to shut up, then I'll shut up. Xia Jinyuan chuckled softly. From his back, it was obvious that he was in a good mood. His mood changed according to her mood. When she was happy, he was happy too. Yi Qian heard his chuckle and felt even angrier. She raised her right leg and kicked him in the back. "You still have the nerve to laugh." She drank it in embarrassment. When it fell into the ears of the man who was kicked forward, it became a coquettish complaint. Xia Jinyuan, who had not expected her kick, quickly supported himself with one hand on the grass. He laughed and teased. "Little Fox, is this considered domestic violence? Sometimes you kick me, sometimes you kick me. My shoulder is still hurting from your kick. Now I've been kicked in the back. TSK, TSK, TSK. Typical domestic violence." Yi Qian bit her lower lip. She blushed and said angrily, "You can think of it that way too. Domestic violence? How could he say that out loud? He didn't even have a family, so how could there be domestic violence? Domestic violence is good, domestic violence is good. I like this kind of domestic violence that doesn't hurt or itch. As Xia Jinyuan sat back down, he suddenly reached behind him and grabbed Yi Qian's bent right leg. Before Yi Qian could scream in embarrassment, he massaged Yi Qian with his slender fingers. The gentle treatment made Yi Jian suppress the scream that rushed to her throat. Yi Jian, who used both hands, no longer bent over. Instead, she exerted force on her bent legs, raised her buttocks, and pulled up her pants. Xia Jinyuan, who was massaging her, saw her legs tense up and knew that she had put on her pants. He no longer sat with his back to her and moved to face her. Chapter 2756. Yi Qian, who was tidying up a few used tissues, was stunned. She did not expect him to suddenly turn around. Realizing that the tissues she tidied up were stained with blood, Yi Qian's face was so red that it looked like blood was about to drip out. She immediately covered the tissues in her pants that she had stuffed into a ball. You, why did you suddenly turn around? Her voice was stuttering and hoarse. Xia Jinyuan had already seen the tissues. He said calmly, "When we get injured during training, the gauze will often be stained with blood. You don't have to be so nervous. The more nervous you are, the more." There was a hint of a smile in his low voice as he spoke lazily. The nonchalance in his tone made Yi Jian's heart flutter. She swallowed her saliva and couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean?" She was basically asking him to bully her. Xia Jinyuan, whose fingers were constantly helping her relax her muscles, raised his eyebrows. His handsome face, which was blurred by the oil paint, was smiling. "The more I think about what kind of blood is on it." Yi Qian's heart was in her mouth. When she heard this, her face turned red and her ears turned bright red. Her slender and fair neck was dyed a rosy red at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was so red that it was like pink jade, sparkling and translucent under the sunlight. In front of him was the most beautiful scenery in the mountains, the most beautiful painting, and the woman in front of him was the most seductive demon in the painting. When she tilted her head and lowered her eyes, the natural charm flowing from her eyebrows made Xia Jinyuan feel as if there was a fire burning in his heart. The fire burned to his throat and eyes, making them dry. He swallowed several times in a row, but it did not moisten his dry throat and eyes. Yi Qian, who was so embarrassed that she turned her head away, kept taking deep breaths. It was too embarrassing, too embarrassing. How could he say such embarrassing words? Actually, it was not surprising that he said it out loud. Ever since she had met him, he had approached her in such an unconventional way, step by step. In the end, he had pulled her into his embrace, and made her willingly stay by his side. From then on, she did not want to go anywhere. Qing Niao, Yi Qian, who was looking down, heard his low and suppressed voice. Yi Qian, who was deep in thought, did not react to the suppressed tone in his voice. She didn't raise her head immediately. She hesitated. Her face was still red, and the shyness in her eyes had not subsided. She could feel the warmth that belonged to him coming from her calves. What was the suppressed feeling in his voice? Could it be that he had other thoughts? In the next second, Xia Jinyuan suddenly leaned forward and fiercely appeared in front of Yi Qian. Startled, Yi Qian subconsciously leaned back. Then, a strong hand supported her waist and prevented her from falling over. Yi Qian couldn't sit up completely when she was packing her things because of the tightness in her waist. Now that she was half leaning back, she placed all her weight on his hand that was supporting her waist. Yi Qian's joints started to feel uncomfortable. "Lie down slowly, don't hurt your waist." The man's suppressed voice sounded a little strange. Yi Qian, who was tilting her head, finally faced him directly. She could smell his scent. They were so close that Yi Qian's trembling eyes could clearly see a small vortex appear in the depths of his dark eyes. He lowered his head and looked at her deeply. The small vortex that appeared grew bigger and deeper, as if it was going to suck her soul into it. He looked at her and slowly approached her. Finally, his handsome forehead touched Yi Qian's forehead. The tips of their noses were less than a centimeter apart. Their lips were so close that he could kiss her if he moved a little closer. Chapter 27:57. His handsome face was just inches away from hers, and she could feel his breath on her face. Yi Jian's heart, which had been hanging in the air, started to sway like a swing. She was so flustered that her heart was in a mess. Was he going to kiss her again? Just like before, he was going to kiss her forcefully and domineeringly. Yi Qian's body tensed up instinctively. Her waist, which was supported by one of his hands, was burning like a ball of fire. It burned her so much that she wanted to escape. Her breathing quickened, and her neck, which was as red as rouge, turned a shade darker. "You get up. I feel uncomfortable," Yi Qian whispered as if she was afraid of startling him. "My waist feels uncomfortable. It's sore." "It won't be sore if you lie down." "No, I want to stand up." "It'll be even more uncomfortable if you stand up now. I'll help you loosen your muscles." Xia Jinyuan replied domineeringly, "You need to relax properly in order to complete the training for the next few days." Yi Qian pursed her lips uneasily. This was telling her that what he was going to do next was definitely not to let her relax properly. How could she escape from his arms? She narrowed her eyes and thought of an idea. Without hesitation, she tilted her head to the side to separate their foreheads from each other. She then took the initiative to kiss him. Unexpectedly, this time, Xia Jinyuan did not accept her kiss. Instead, he turned his head away, leaving her lips empty. Yi Qian was speechless. "Did I guess wrong? Didn't he want to kiss me?" "If you continue kissing, something will really happen," he sighed. "He really didn't want to kiss me." Yi Qian knew that she was so embarrassed that even her toes curled up. He pressed his forehead against hers again, using an irresistible force to transfer his strength to her, making her lie down bit by bit. The hand on her waist gradually retracted its strength, but it didn't completely retract its strength. Instead, it retracted its strength as it slowly laid her half-tilted body back onto the anti-wet mat, until her waist pressed down on his arm. "Lie down properly and don't move. Don't bother about the pants beside you. I've seen everything that I should and shouldn't see. There's nothing to be embarrassed about in front of me. The relationship between two people is a matter of knowing each other's secrets. You need to relax and accept my presence." Xia Jinyuan, who did not immediately get up, started lecturing Yi Qian. His gaze was fixed on her eyes, and his back muscles were already tense as he restrained the urge to kiss her. He slowly said, "We need to get used to each other and accept the fact that we should share our private matters with the other half of our lives." Yi Jian was not used to this kind of communication, but she had to endure it even if she was not used to it. She did not want to make herself look weak. "All right, I got it. Can I rest for a while before we gather? How's your stomach?" Without answering her request, the strong and powerful man slowly bent down. Yi Jian's heart, which had been shaking, tightened fiercely. 4 words flashed through her mind. Finally! "It's not that it's not coming." The moment his slender body was pressed against Yi Qian, Xia Jinyuan, who was leaning over, made a huge turn. His hands, which were propped up, fell to one side. Under Yi Qian's widened eyes, he lay down beside her. "Did you think I would press down on you?" The man's hot breath blew into her ear. Yi Qian, who had thought that he would continue to do private things, simply closed her eyes. It was too embarrassing. Chapter 27:58. "You're already like this. No matter how much of a beast I am, I can't do anything to you. Also, you kissed me just now. Did you think I wanted to kiss you?" he said in a low and deep voice, and there was an obvious smile in his voice. "You miss my kisses too, don't you? You miss it as much as I do, right?" Yi Qian closed her eyes and answered this question in silence. "I didn't want to kiss you just now. I was just mesmerized by the rouge on your face. You're so beautiful that I want to hide you in my pocket. No one is allowed to look at you." As Xia Jinyuan spoke, he placed his hand on her flat stomach. Little fox, do you know how beautiful you are? So beautiful that I can't control myself. Just like now. He leaned close to her ear and couldn't help but nibble on her earlobe. I said I can't kiss you, I can't touch you, but I can't help it. I want to get closer to you, I want more. As he bit and sucked her earlobe, Yi Qian's eyelashes fluttered. She couldn't help but raise her hand to cover her face. How much more do you want to bite? You're hurting me. Her voice was buzzing and trembling. She was like a butterfly on a flower in the wind, wanting to be caught in a net. You have to stop talking too. As long as you talk, I won't be able to control myself. Xia Jinyuan felt helpless. After so many years, he still couldn't improve his self-control in front of her. His large hand gently rubbed her stomach clockwise. When he finally let go of her earlobe, he frowned. Why is it so cold? I can't even warm it up. With her earlobe released, Yi Qian was afraid that he would do something else. She quickly said, You must have caught a cold. You're also feeling a little uncomfortable. She quickly stopped the intimacy. She felt like she was being roasted on a stove. Caught a cold? Xia Jinyuan's face suddenly darkened. He immediately sat up and rubbed his hands together until his palms were hot enough to form blisters. Then, he placed his palms on Yi Qian's slightly cold abdomen. Lie down properly. You need to warm up. The book repeatedly mentioned that women should not catch a cold during their period. Once they caught a cold, they would fall ill. Xia Jinyuan was anxious. There's brown sugar syrup specially prepared for the female soldiers in the sanitary bag. There's no hot water, so you can only drink it. There's also the iron agent. It doesn't need hot water. Which one do you want to drink first? He was so anxious that his thin lips were pressed tightly together, and the air pressure was much lower. Yi Qian was a little tired, so tired that he didn't even want to lift his hand. He mumbled, I don't want to move. I want to sleep for a while. Q King, I want to sleep for a while. I'm a little tired. His palm was like a furnace, constantly releasing heat. Her originally cold lower abdomen had a comfortable warmth. This warmth was so warm that her eyelids became heavy, and she really wanted to sleep for a while. I want to lie down on my side. It's not comfortable lying flat. The sleepy Yi Qian mumbled, then turned over and laid down on his side. He even let out a soft sound of comfort. Her swinging heart also calmed down and slowly returned to her chest. With him protecting her, she didn't want to go anywhere. Xia Jinyuan flipped through the sanitary bag with one hand and found a packet of brown sugar syrup. He tore open the package with his mouth and handed it to Yi Qian. Be good. Drink this first. Drink it before you sleep. Sleep well. You can rest in the afternoon. The sweet syrup spilled out of the package. Yi Qian didn't even open his eyes as he drank about 100 milliliters of syrup in Xia Jinyuan's hand. The warmth in her lower abdomen made her yawn again. I'm going to sleep for a while, Q King. I need to replenish my energy for a while. Chapter 2759. She could rest in the afternoon, but she couldn't really rest in the afternoon. Her comrades were still training, but she was resting. Even if she rested, she would feel uncomfortable, so she might as well train together. Go to sleep, I'll watch over you. Sleep well. Xia Jinyuan touched her forehead. Her temperature was normal, and she didn't have a cold or fever. She was on her period, and her body was much weaker than usual. She had been drenched in the rain for the entire night, and was punished by him to stand for 5.5 hours. A normal person would have collapsed from such high-intensity training, but Qing Miao had persevered until now. Yi Qian still cherished her body, but the environment made it impossible for her to protect herself all the time. She could only try her best not to delay her work and let her body rest. She was so tired that she couldn't keep her eyes open. She fell asleep immediately, and the entire process took no more than 3 to 5 minutes. Xia Jinyuan saw that there was still a drop of syrup at the corner of her mouth, and she had already fallen asleep. His eyes were deep. Female soldiers were always at a disadvantage compared to male soldiers when it came to training every few days of the month. This was the reason why the Snowfield Brigade didn't recruit female soldiers in the past. However, as time went on, the country's strength and military power developed, and the advantages of female soldiers gradually became more prominent. It became a trend for female soldiers to join the special forces. Qing Miao could be considered a female special forces soldier in the truest sense of the word. There was a big difference between her and the special forces formed by the military. Qing Miao, you still have a long way to go. If you want to catch up to me, you still have a lot of hardships to go through. You haven't even experienced the Devil training camp, and you haven't even started the combat training. You still have a lot of training to do. Female soldiers can endure hardships, and it has been proven that they are much stronger than male soldiers. It can be clearly seen from your body. All your statistics show that you are much better than male soldiers. So, Qing Miao, you have to persevere. Xia Jinyuan said softly. When he looked at Yi Qian, there was only tenderness in his eyes. His little fox still had a long way to go. For example, there were several types of land combat skills: intelligence gathering, long-range reconnaissance, patrolling and ambushing, infiltration of buildings, close-range combat, sniping and anti-sniping, high-speed escape driving in an emergency, the use of cold weapons, hand-to-hand combat, survival under extreme conditions, battlefield medical treatment, bomb clearance and defensive deployment, small-scale and large-scale troop tactics, infiltration and evacuation techniques, captive capture and prisoner of war training, night urban mobility. Just to name a few, there were 16 or 17 types of land combat training. He had some experience with training on the sea, but his foundation in air training was still zero. His little fox still had a long way to go, but he couldn't just wait for her to catch up. She would have to put in a lot of effort if she wanted to catch up to him. Xia Jinyuan finally retracted his hand when he felt the warmth in his flat and soft belly and no longer felt the chill in his heart. After rubbing for more than an hour, it finally warmed up. Xia Jinyuan raised his hand and swung it a few times. In order to warm up her cold belly, his hand didn't stop. His arm was also a little sore. While he was swinging his hand, 2 ants finally climbed over the moisture-proof mat and crawled towards the sweet smell. Colonel Xia was quick to react. He immediately flung the 2 ants that were trying to climb to the corner of Yi Qian's mouth to the side. Then, Colonel Xia bent down and carefully licked away the congealed syrup. The devil, who had finally finished his round trip, walked in with large strides. He happened to see the pervert that the whole family was guarding against, lowering his head and acting like a pervert with his sister. Chapter 2760. Li Jinyan, who was choking on his anger, took 3 steps at a time, his aura surging fiercely. Xia Jinyuan, who was licking the chaff pulp with the tip of his tongue, sharply sensed that Xia Jinyuan did not come with good intentions. He looked up and swept his sharp gaze forward. When he saw his future brother-in-law, Colonel Xia's eyelids twitched violently. He was caught red-handed by his brother-in-law when he took advantage of Yi Jian. In order to prevent his brother-in-law from flying into a rage, Colonel Xia preemptively reminded Li Jinyan that Yi Qian was sleeping and not to be too loud to wake her up. Just now you... Although Li Jinyan saw that Colonel Xia had shushed him, he could no longer control himself and interrupted his sentence. It took him a lot of effort to swallow the other half of his sentence when he saw his sister's sleeping face. He pointed at the cold-faced devil next to him and said in a low voice, "Let's talk in front." He was very angry, so angry that there was a hint of hostility between his brows. She was having a nightmare just now. I want to accompany her. Xia Jinyuan did not move. If his brother-in-law was angry and fell asleep with his girlfriend, he would naturally choose the latter. She's not feeling very well. I have something to do. Let's talk about it later. It was normal for his brother-in-law to be angry after being caught stealing a kiss. Previously, he had warned him not to touch his sister. Although he did not agree, he was still caught red-handed. The devil, who was so angry that his face turned black, probably wanted to hit him again. Li Jinyan did have such thoughts. However, he knew that Xia Jinyuan would not use Yi Qian's incident as a shield. His handsome face coldly sat down with him and looked over with a cold gaze. K7 just told me that you don't care about Qing Niao's health. If anything happens to her, Q King, don't you feel embarrassed to face Qing Niao? Don't you feel embarrassed to visit the Fu family again? Her dates are not accurate. She would either come earlier or later. I thought it would take another 2 or 3 days. Who knew that she would come earlier this month? Xia Jinyuan smiled bitterly. This time, it's my fault for not paying attention. She even fainted. Li Jinyan clenched his fists as he asked. He understood his brother's good intentions. Although he was happy for his sister, compared to her health, he only hoped that she would be safe and sound. I know she fainted. I thought she would faint before. Demon King, some things are destined to be obtained through sacrifice. It's very cruel, but also very real. K7 reminded me that Qing Niao was on her period. I thought about ending her punishment, but in the end, I held myself back. I have to endure it, and so does she. When Qing Niao wakes up, you can ask her what her goal is. When you know her goal, I believe you'll understand why I'm so cruel. Demon King, although Qing Niao is Old Master's biological granddaughter, she grew up in a very different environment from us. You and I can be said to have lived a luxurious life. When we were young, we were spoiled by our families, but Qing Niao was not. Before she returned to the Fu family, she relied on her own hard work. She was hard-working, and unrelenting. These were the impressions that Qing Niao left on everyone. Regardless of whether she returned to the Fu family or not, this was the impression that her comrades had of her. I don't have the right to destroy the impression that she left on her comrades. Before she says so, I will not end the punishment. I will only observe in secret. I am indeed cruel. From the day I confirmed my relationship with Qing Niao, I had a deep conversation with her. We both know that there is a difference between life and training. Li Jinyan, who was shocked, let go of his hand. Every time he talked to Q King about his sister, he realized how thoughtful he was. Chapter 2761. He was really holding his sister's hand and walking forward step by step. He was teaching his sister to be strong and brave. She's destined to become an extraordinary Special Forces soldier. As for me, I'll definitely do my best to clean up the path she's taken before she walks on a broad path. I won't leave behind any dirt for others to criticize or for people with ulterior motives to make a fuss about it. Devil, Qing Niao's life hasn't been easy. Every step she takes now is extremely important, and every step she takes must be done carefully. Don't forget, there are people who don't want her to live at all, who don't want her to become a talent. Li Jinyan's heart felt like it was being hammered again and again. Even his breathing became labored. His expression became increasingly cold, and he pursed his thin lips so tightly that they formed a straight line. I don't want anyone to deny her hard work. I don't want her to be framed again in the future, and I don't want her hard work to go to waste. I won't allow the suffering she went through in the past to happen again. Therefore, he would rather be cruel now than have her be blamed in the future. Li Jinyan's breathing was very rapid. He panted as if he was out of oxygen and could suffocate at any time. Li Jinyan stared fixedly at Xia Jinyuan, whose every word was like a hammer pressing down on his heart. His heart was in a mess as he asked anxiously, "What else did my sister go through in the past? I only know that Yi Jifan's family treated her very badly. As for how badly they treated her, she told me that it's all in the past and there's no need to mention it again." Xia Jinyuan, Please tell me what my sister went through in the past. His cold voice was like a sword, sharp as it swept out. I really want to know. Please tell me. The man in front of him had been with his sister for 7 years. He knew too much about their family that they didn't know. If he wanted to know what kind of environment his sister used to live in, he could only find out through him. To ask his younger sister about her past was too cruel. The wound that had healed with much difficulty was torn open once more, revealing painful memories. It was too cruel to his younger sister. The reason why Xia Jinyuan suddenly brought up Yi Qian's past was because he wanted to use kinship to get rid of the last shadow in Yi Qian's eyes. Past and present lives? Indeed, he did not believe in past lives. He only believed that she must have experienced pain in the past that he did not know of. There's a lot. If you want to know, I'll tell you slowly. I can't do it now. You'll wake her up. Xia Jinyuan nodded calmly. He would never go back on his word. I can tell you, but you can't tell Qing Niao. When it comes to her matters, I've always said that if she doesn't tell me, I won't mention it. But you are her brother, her family. If you know some of her past, you can understand her better. The more I know about her, the more I know how difficult it was for her to get to where she is now. It was because of my cruelty and her persistence that we were able to get to where we are now. Demon King, she and I still need to continue walking side by side. I want her to head towards her goal and achieve her goal without any distractions. It was because of my cruelty and her persistence that we were able to get to where we are now. These words fell into Li Jinyan's heart, causing him to be unable to come back to his senses for a long time. The wind blew through the leaves, bringing with it a sound that calmed one's heart. When it blew past one's face, it was as if it had blown away the dust in one's eyes. When one looked at it, one's heart was as clear as a mirror. Chapter 2762. Li Jinyan's icy expression gradually melted. His gaze fell on the face of the man who had been guarding his sister and unwilling to leave. Then, he looked straight into his eyes. After a while, he said thoughtfully, I think I understand why my sister likes you. As a man, I have to say that what you have done is really rare. If it were me, I might not be able to do what you have done. You reached out to my sister when she was at her toughest. When she needed someone to help her the most, you held her hand in time. In the blink of an eye, 7 years have passed. You and her, who were strangers, have become close. Q King, you really care about my sister. It's not that I care. Xia Jinyuan's gaze landed on the face of his beloved girl who was in deep sleep. As he lowered his eyes, the corners of his mouth naturally lifted into a gentle smile. She is the world. She is my world. How could he just care? There were too many uncertainties in caring about something like this. Perhaps one day he would be able to care for someone else. The only world that would never change was his own. She was his world that would never change. Needless to say, Xia Jinyuan's words completely changed Li Jinyan's opinion of Xia Jinyuan. He knew that Q King was outstanding and not an ordinary man. He also knew that he had been mischievous since he was young. Even Commander-in-Chief Xia had a headache over him. He said that he and Li Jinyan had lived a life of luxury since they were young, but he was wrong. At least when Li Jinyan was young, he had to take care of his sick mother for a long time and deal with the Li family. He did not have the capital to be as presumptuous as Xia Jinyuan. I did have some opinions about you in the past. You're the crown prince of the capital. Everyone has to give you face. With your qualifications, your capital, and your family background, you can totally have fun. You can change girlfriends as easily as changing clothes. You can change them as you want without any reluctance. Changing girlfriends as easily as changing clothes? That's Han Zheng. I, Xia Jinyuan, grew up, and Yi Qian was my first love. She is also the only girl that moved my heart. Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. After that, he said with a complicated expression, Why would you think of me that way? We've trained together for more than half a year. Even if you don't know me very well, you should know me a little. You may know a man's face, but not his heart. Haven't you heard of this before? Li Jinyan coldly glanced at him. If you hadn't said those words just now, my impression of you would still be that of a hedonistic son of a rich family. I wouldn't feel at ease leaving my sister to you. I would have to test you for at least 3 to 5 years. Test. Xia Jinyuan furrowed his brows, and his handsome face darkened. Fortunately, his face was covered in oil paint, so Li Jinyan couldn't see it. Test and inspection. The difference of one word is huge. You scared me. A test meant that they would create all kinds of trouble for him. With the Li family's ability, they might even stuff beautiful women into his arms. Thinking of this possibility, Xia Jinyuan clenched his teeth. Brother-in-law, you can't go overboard. Be careful that you don't have to do that one day. Fortunately, I've confessed my feelings to you. If you had really revealed it, I would have been injured even if I had to tear you apart. It was too dangerous, too dangerous. He didn't know that Demon King Li was actually trying to create trouble for him. You're quite lucky that you didn't wait for me to make a move. Li Jinyan knew from his expression that Xia Jinyuan had guessed what he would do in the future. He didn't deny it and raised his brows. Before my fist landed, your explanation shocked me. Chapter 2763. Just now, when Li Jinyan saw the kiss, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to beat up the bastard who kissed his sister until he became completely obedient. If Xia Jinyuan had not made a hush gesture in time, Li Jinyan would have punched him the moment he walked over. At this moment, the urge to beat him up had lessened, but his fists were still itching. Li Jinyan interlocked his fingers, and his knuckles cracked. He said calmly, "Although I was shocked, facing a guy who kissed my sister, my fists." He clenched his fists and waved them in front of Xia Jinyuan. "I still want to learn from you. As for brother-in-law, it's better if you don't call me that. First of all, you don't have a child yet." Speaking of this, Li Jinyan suddenly thought of something. His eyes suddenly became sharp, and he said in a deep voice, "My whole family doesn't want my sister to have a child so early." "Q King, did you really bully my sister?" "No, she's still young." Xia Jinyuan, who was thinking, "That was close," answered Li Jinyan confidently without hesitation. "I've known her for 7 years, and our relationship is still pure." After telling the truth, Xia Jinyuan felt a little strange. "Devil, don't you feel awkward talking about these private matters? Would an older brother ask his sister if she had an intimate relationship with her boyfriend? Would he ask? Why did he feel more and more awkward?" Li Jinyan was really stumped by the question. After a while, he said, "I don't know, but I think so." It turned out that he didn't even know how awkward it was to ask about these things. Xia Jinyuan, whose face was a little gloomy, thought that he had to squash the bud. He said in a deep voice, "Probably not. I won't ask you again." After thinking it over, Li Jinyan, who also believed that he couldn't ask, immediately agreed and said, "But don't call me brother-in-law again. I'm afraid that after hearing it, I'll want to ask you for advice." Although he was shocked by him, he was not so touched that he would immediately hand over his younger sister to him. Xia Jinyuan, who was finally free from his brother-in-law's meddling in his personal affairs, thought that he had resolved a major issue. Now that he heard this, he smiled bitterly. Ask for advice? This was asking him to go up and ask for a beating. Xia Jinyuan, who had been sparred last night, replied calmly, "I don't dare to ask for advice. Let's have a spar." "We can spar. Since you're so nice to my sister, I won't do anything like a test. I don't want her to be sad." "It's about her." Li Jinyan's heart was heavy. He did not finish his sentence. Instead, he looked gently at Yi Qian's face. This was his only sister. The Fu family had lost his aunt and sent his sister to the Fu family. Not only did it make up for the scar in his grandfather's heart, but it also redeemed his uncle, who missed his wife dearly. His sister was the apple of his eye, and the pearl in his grandfather's and uncle's hearts. They were her closest family, and they wanted her to live a smooth life. Xia Jingyuan's sacrifice was not something that an ordinary man could do. The two of you are pretty good. At least you're both soldiers. I think you can go far together. Facing the person his sister liked, even the taciturn Li Jinyan had endless things to say. Love alone is far from enough to support the relationship between two soldiers. They also have to endure long-term separation, worry, longing, and the perseverance of life and death. Chapter 2764. It's fine for female soldiers to find a partner, but not for male soldiers. There are many islands in the Southern Sea, and our country's navy is stationed on those islands all year round. It's normal for soldiers to not return home for 3 to 5 years. I know a few good friends who didn't return home for many years. Even if their sister-in-law gave birth to a child, they all ended up divorcing. Q King, loneliness is the most terrible enemy when dating a soldier. It will ruthlessly shatter the peace of a family at some point in time, causing a couple who should have been together for the rest of their lives to end up as strangers. You and my sister are both soldiers and will be assigned to the same unit. If you can really stay together, it will be a good thing. But there are clear rules in the unit that husband and wife can't be in the same unit or work in the same place. Once you establish a good relationship with my sister, have you ever thought that one day you two will be separated? I've heard too many stories of divorce after being separated for a long time. It's so often that I've lost confidence in marriage and have no confidence in managing my own marriage. I hope that you and my sister can really stay together until the end, and not let each other's families worry about you. He would always remember the platoon leader who was stationed on the farthest island. On the night he came back from his shift, he drank himself into a stupor. In the end, this man, who had escaped death several times, laid on the beach and cried. Later, he found out that the platoon leader's wife had sent him a divorce agreement and a letter from home. The letter listed the platoon leader's 10 major crimes. The most painful thing was, the platoon leader's wife directly told him that marrying him was the stupidest and most brainless thing she had ever done in her life. Look, dating a soldier is so lonely. It's so lonely that you feel like you're just hugging a photo, and they'll never appear by your side when you need them the most. Li Jinyan was afraid of waking up Yi Qian, who was still sound asleep, so he lowered his voice when he spoke. It was very soft and light, and only Xia Jinyuan could hear him clearly. Perhaps because he was shocked by Xia Jinyuan's heartfelt confession, Li Jinyan didn't feel as distant as before during this conversation. Xia Jinyuan, who realized this, was a little surprised. He didn't expect that he would be able to shorten the distance between him and Li Jinyan. This was quite an unexpected gain. We both know what's going on between Yi Qian and I. There's no need for our families to worry about us. As Xia Jinyuan spoke, Yi Qian, who had slept for more than an hour and a half, suddenly turned over. He was in a deep sleep, and there was a mark on his cheek. With more than an hour and a half of rest, her face was no longer pale. Instead, it had the color of lotus petals and a healthy pink. The two of them stopped talking at the same time. Even their breathing became lighter. Their gazes were equally gentle as they gazed at Yi Qian. After a nap, Yi Qian was still a little lazy. As her brain gradually woke up, she suddenly realized that someone was staring at her. Because she didn't feel any sense of danger, Yi Qian's expression was very sleepy when she opened her eyes. When she opened her eyes and blinked again, not only did she see Captain Xia, but she also saw her brother. "Did you rest well?" Li Jinyan's cold and handsome face revealed a slight smile. He asked, "Do you want to rest for a while more? Q King just told me that you can rest this afternoon." Yi Qian didn't care if she could rest this afternoon. What she cared about was whether Captain Xia was beaten up or not. Big Brother had told her before that she couldn't let Captain Xia touch her, but today, Captain Xia was going to change her pants. Yi Qian hurriedly got up and smiled calmly. I slept well. I don't need to rest this afternoon. I can continue training. Chapter 2765. When Li Jinyan heard Yi Qian personally say that the afternoon training could continue, he instantly understood what Xia Jinyuan meant by his cruelty, her perseverance. One gave silently, the other calmly accepted, one watched, the other moved forward. Just like that, they held hands tightly, never letting go no matter how many storms they went through. This kind of love had nothing to do with romance, nothing to do with words of love, and nothing to do with vows of eternal love. As soldiers, their path of love was destined to be different from that of ordinary people. There was no romance, nothing to do with romance, nothing to do with words of love, and nothing to do with vows of eternal love. But you could see that love was stronger than gold. Li Jinyan raised his hand and gently rubbed Yi Qian's head. He said softly, "That's good. Everyone was worried about you. Our comrades outside are also waiting for your news. Since you're fine, go out and greet them so that they can rest assured." The corner of Xia Jinyuan's mouth twitched, and he said that he wasn't going to test him. Look. At this moment, his brother-in-law couldn't wait to send Little Fox away from him so that he wouldn't have time to be alone with Little Fox. Why was his brother-in-law the same as his old man Xia? Both of them couldn't bear to see him doing well. Lieutenant Colonel Xia felt a little helpless. However, his Little Fox was quite obedient. Hearing this, she quickly stood up and said to the Demon King, I'm sorry. I made my comrade worry about me. I'm really fine. I just fainted because I didn't rest well." In order to prove that he was in good spirits, in good condition, and in good health, Yi Jian habitually straightened his chest and patted himself on the chest. He said loudly, "Now, I'm full of energy and I'm a good man again." Full of energy and a good man again? Not only did his words make Li Jinyan smile, but his comrades who cared about Yi Qian also laughed heartily. "Ioyo, why is Qing Niao so interesting and funny? I only heard that 18 years later, he would be a hero again. Qing Niao, your self-creation is not bad. It rhymes quite well. Ha, a hero has appeared in the Jianghu again. There will be a new round of bloodshed in the Jianghu. Hero Qing Niao, have mercy! I've learned something again today. Next time, I can also pat my chest and say, I'm full of energy and vigor and I'm a real man. In the evening training, a real man must be Qing Niao. Don't show any mercy. I still want to learn a few moves." Yes. I want to learn too. Qing Niao, you form a team. We'll follow you." Faced with the teasing and concern of his comrades, Yi Qian, who felt warm in his heart, kept the corners of his mouth raised high. His gurgling smile was as clear as spring water, slowly flowing into the hearts of his comrades. His comrades, who had been training for a day, could not help but smile. Emotions were contagious. Yi Qian's strength and happiness infected every one of his comrades. It swept away the fatigue of the day and made them feel relaxed all of a sudden. When Xia Jinyuan walked out, he saw the girl he loved deeply talking and laughing with his comrades. She was calm and collected. However, in that moment, his girl ran away like a rabbit, afraid that he would let her stay. Even Xia Jinyuan looked down at the pants in his hands. He smiled helplessly, but there was a deep indulgence in his smile. She ran away so quickly because she felt embarrassed. Chapter 2766. But, Little Fox, you didn't even manage to hide your pants and the pile of dark brown tissues. In the end, he had to take care of them. Little Fox, your embarrassment will continue later. When it was time to rest, Xia Jinyuan didn't disturb Yi Qian, who was talking to her comrades. Instead, He took the combat uniform that they had changed out of and went to the mountain stream. There was a lot of water in the Zhongchuan Mountains, which was why it was so beautiful. The Special Forces soldiers, who had been training for several months, were waiting for the mountain stream to clean their bodies and wash their clothes. They didn't have any cleaning products. Instead, they picked up locust leaves that had fallen from the mountains and rubbed them to make a thick, slippery detergent. Using natural products from the mountains to wash their bodies and clothes was the most suitable. Li Jinyan saw that Yi Qian's blood was rosy and she wasn't as pale as before. Only then did his tensed heart slowly relax. After a few hours of training, the comrades, who hadn't even eaten lunch, split up and followed Li Jinyan's instructions. They all worked together and performed their own duties. Yi Qian had already noticed Xia Jinyuan coming out of the corner of her eye. When she saw that her comrades weren't paying attention to her, she immediately headed in a certain direction. When she walked into the mountain stream, she saw the man's tall and straight body squatting. His arched back faintly revealed his hidden strength as he rubbed his clothes with both hands. His perfectly curved muscles were faintly discernible through the tight combat uniform, showing off the man's sexiness. Yi Qian saw the clothes piled by his feet. Her face instantly turned red as she looked around. She gently picked up a branch and tiptoed closer. The rippling water of the clear stream reflected Xia Jinyuan's handsome face. Through the layers of water, she could faintly see the smile on his thin lips. No matter how light her footsteps were, Xia Jinyuan knew who was approaching him. "You were in a hurry to escape from me just now. Why are you here now?" Just as Yi Qian was about to pick up her washed clothes with a twig, Xia Jinyuan, who had his back to her, spoke with a faint smile. Yi Qian was so shocked that her hand trembled and the twig in her hand fell to the ground. Xia Jinyuan, who had just finished wringing the last piece of clothing out of the water, turned around and saw Yi Qian blushing. She stood there like a shy little girl who wanted to say something. In order to appear calm, she even put her hands behind her back in an attempt to hide something. Her calm appearance could deceive others, but she couldn't deceive him. "You've finished bathing?" Although her hands were behind her back, she didn't dare to look at Xia Jinyuan. She kept looking at the scenery. Yi Jianan's face was flushed red. The scenery was beautiful, but Yi Qian was not in the mood to appreciate it. When Yi Qian saw Xia Jinyuan come out with his clothes in his hands, she resisted the urge to rush over and snatch the clothes from him. She stood there until her comrades went to do their own things. Before she came over, she thought that he should still be washing his own clothes and that he hadn't started washing hers yet. When she walked over to take a look, reality hit her hard. "They're all done." Xia Jinyuan, who had finished washing the 2 sets of clothes, picked up the wet clothes. Seeing her shy look, his heart itched like a cat was scratching it. "Yes, I've washed them. You were in such a hurry just now. Didn't you want me to wash them for you?" "No." Yi Qian's gaze fell on his face. "I didn't mean to let you wash them. I can wash them myself." After saying that, she immediately looked away and didn't dare to look at him again. Chapter 2767. Xia Jinyuan was amused by her helpless behavior. His smile deepened. How could his girl be so cute? It was time to rest. Unwilling to let her leave, Lieutenant Colonel Xia pretended to be confused. He frowned slightly and asked her, "No? But at that time, you left with the devil without looking back. You didn't even pack your things. Didn't that mean you wanted me to pack and wash your things? Did I misunderstand?" "You misunderstood. I really didn't mean that. At that time, I just wanted my brother to leave quickly and not see I." Yi Qian stuttered for a long time but couldn't finish her sentence. Lieutenant Colonel Xia, whose heart was itching because of the person in front of him, understood what she meant. "Afraid of being seen by the devil? That's why you were in a hurry to leave?" Yi Qian hummed in a low voice. Her fair face was redder than a flower. "Now that this matter is known to all, I was so nervous when I spoke to them just now. I was afraid that they would ask me, Luckily, no one asked and K7 didn't say anything. That's why I didn't feel so awkward. You already knew anyway, but you still saw it. If my brother sees it again, I'll be so embarrassed that I won't want to show my face for a few days. She was still embarrassed to face it. Xia Jinyuan's heart was filled with sweetness, as if he had poured a cup of honey. Even though the Demon King is your closest relative, I'm still different from him, right? The lieutenant colonel, who was feeling sweet in his heart, tried to tempt her. Faced with Xia Jinyuan's question, Yi Qian was as shy as a hibiscus. However, she didn't feel nervous when facing her comrades, nor did she feel embarrassed when facing Li Jinyan. Hearing this, she nodded honestly. Of course it's different. My brother is my family, and you are my lover. You said it yourself that we have to get used to sharing our private matters with the other half of our lives. My brother is my family, and you are my lover. I'd rather let you see it than let my brother see it. Yi Qian subconsciously thought that Xia Jinyuan was the one who could see everything about her, including her private matters. Although Li Jinyan was her brother, he was still a man and a woman. How could she let her brother know about her private matters? The only one who would know would definitely be his most intimate lover. Finally hearing what he wanted to hear, Lieutenant Colonel Xia felt as comfortable as drinking a bowl of iced mung bean porridge on a hot summer day. His entire body and mind were refreshed, and even his pores were filled with joy. No matter how powerful his brother-in-law was, he wasn't afraid anymore. His girlfriend was already standing beside him. What was there to be afraid of? His wet, slender fingers lightly scratched the tip of her nose. The handsome Lieutenant Colonel Xia sighed. You still have some conscience. Just now you left with the Demon King without even looking back. My heart went cold. The tip of Yi Qian's nose was wet. He smiled as he raised his hand to wipe it away. He glanced sideways at Yi Qian and said, Is your heart cold? Is it warm now? Don't think I don't know that you were trying to trick me. You can tell? Of course I can. I'm not stupid. Xia Jinyuan's smile deepened. His deep black eyes were filled with a gentle smile. He stared at her delicate face that was even more beautiful than the green mountains and clear waters in the faint sunlight. His low voice was like the strings of a zither being pulled slowly. Then why did you say it out loud? If you want to hear it, then I'll say it. If you don't want to hear it. Yi Qian, with her pink cheeks, raised her eyebrows. Her bright eyes looked at the man whose gentleness was about to envelop her. Seeing that Yi Qian looked a little helpless because of her intentional pause, Yi Qian became even more spirited and said with a smile, If you don't want to hear it, I'll say it again. Chapter 2768. Amidst the blue sky and beautiful water, the two of them looked at each other. The love in their eyes was so deep that even K7, who was still some distance away, couldn't help but stop in his tracks. Go to the side, it's not convenient here. He stopped his comrade from following behind and left some space for the two of them to look at each other for a long time. Q King and Qing Miao were indeed a good match. Occupation, talent, appearance, temperament, they were a perfect match in every aspect. The two of them existed for each other. Without one of them, they would both be single for the rest of their lives. K7, who rarely spoke, sometimes seemed like an invisible person wherever he stood, used his meticulous and cold eyes to discover the bond between Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian. Xia Jinyuan saw Yi Qian's back as he turned to leave. He didn't say anything to Yi Qian. Instead, he pointed up and invited Yi Qian to climb the tree with him. Young men and women dating in amusement parks, cinemas, cafes, shopping malls, they held hands and walked around romantically, enjoying the joy of being in love. But Lieutenant Colonel Xia and Yi Qian's relationship didn't have that. The most romantic thing they did was to climb a tree together and hang their wet combat uniforms on the tree to dry. Luckily, there's plenty of water, so you can wash off your sweat and stink. You didn't see the scene where the combat uniform stood up after taking it off, but you'll have a chance to see it in the future. You'll experience it for yourself. As he spoke, Xia Jinyuan jumped down from the tree. He opened his arms and smiled at Yi Qian, who hadn't come down yet. Do you dare to jump? He asked her if she dared to jump into his arms. Of course, Yi Qian dared. She raised her eyebrows and jumped down from the tree without any warning. His strong arms hugged her tightly. Why wouldn't she dare? If he dared to say it, she dared to jump. Aren't you afraid that I won't be able to catch you? He asked. Yi Qian blinked. Bright colors poured out from his eyes. There's no such possibility. You'll definitely catch me. Even if I jump from a high place, you'll definitely catch me without a frown. You trust me that much? If I don't trust you, who should I trust? Should I trust someone else? Oh, you even know how to stab him? Xia Jinyuan raised his hand and quickly flicked her forehead. The goods have been sold and are non-refundable. You only have one choice, and it's for life. During the short break, the two of them chatted and laughed softly, creating a space of their own. No comrades came to disturb them, and they all chose to avoid them. Although the relationship between the two wasn't made clear, those who didn't know, especially the members of the Storm Commandos, didn't disturb them because they were restrained by Li Jinyan. In any case, the comrades of the Snowfield Brigade basically knew what was going on. In the evening, Yi Qian did not choose to rest during the shooting practice. Instead, he and his team members completed a series of shooting exercises of the same difficulty, such as jumping, hanging upside down, running, and so on. The 15 of them only ended their hard training at 8 o'clock in the evening. For the next few days, Yi Qian, like the male soldiers, completed all the exercises one by one. Even when her period ended, she didn't ask for a day off. She didn't even complain. Her persistence won the respect of all the team members. Young Sparrowhawk said to his comrades emotionally, "The female soldiers are so strong that they're like Qing Niao. Even the male soldiers are ashamed of their inferiority. I'm impressed by her injured training spirit." You're impressed, and so am I. With a female soldier like Qing Niao by my side, I'm even more motivated. I'm afraid that if I slack off, she'll leave me far behind. Chapter 2769. I think it'll be difficult to meet a female soldier like Qing Niao in the future. It'll probably be difficult to meet one in our lifetime. Unless we recruit another female soldier, we might be able to see the beauty of a female soldier again. Ha ha ha, brother, you must be joking. Recruit another female soldier like Qing Niao? A female soldier like Qing Niao is hard to come by. You want to meet two more? Don't be so greedy. I'm really greedy. A female soldier like Qing Niao is indeed hard to come by. Although she has only trained with us for about 20 days, the shock she gives me is stronger and stronger. Now that the training is over, I'm actually still not used to it. Hearing this, young Sparrowhawk asked G3, "Do you think Qing Niao will still train with us? If she's not on duty during the winter break, she should come to our team to train." "I don't know, we'll have to ask Q King." G3, who had a weed in his mouth, shook his head. His gravel-like voice contained a hint of laziness. "We can ask together later. Now, brothers, let's have a good rest. The helicopter will come later. Don't be too weak to climb the rope when the time comes." Where did Q King go? He doesn't need to take so long to take a shower. Ha ha ha, could it be that the sweat and salt on his body is too thick, so he has to use a stone to scrape it off? 5 minutes ago, the Devil King called him away. Only you have to use a stone to scrape it off. G3 raised his leg and smiled as he lightly kicked V8, who was joking. "Rest, rest, you can rest now. Why aren't you resting? Sleep for a while, all of you, go to sleep. When you wake up, we can all leave." After a few months of special training, 2 helicopters would arrive on time at 7:30 p.m. tonight. They would take 2 teams of special forces and leave Zhangchuan Mountains. The water ghosts of the storm commandos had just finished washing up and came back with wet hair. The two teams chatted for a while before lying down on the grass to rest. At a certain distance away from the team members, the kings of the two teams were engaged in a heated hand-to-hand combat. Xia Jinyuan dodged the fierce punch and said, "Brother-in-law, we have to discuss this. You can't hit my face. It will affect my image. If Yi Qian sees us later, he might even give us a good scolding. Whether or not you can avoid being slapped in the face depends on whether you have the ability to avoid it." Li Jinyan, who hadn't made a move until today, said coldly, "If you can dodge it, it won't hit your face. If you can't dodge it, you can only blame yourself for not having the ability to dodge it." No ability? How could Xia Jinyuan tolerate this when it concerned his pride? "Why don't we count who has the most bruises on his face?" With that, he threw a punch at Li Jinyan's face. "What, brother-in-law? Let's talk about that after the fight." The two men, who were equally strong and capable, waved their fists. Every punch was barehanded, and they used at least 80% of their strength. They couldn't use all their strength. They still had to participate in the competition in a few days. If they hurt their muscles and bones in advance, they would be in trouble. They would return to the military and wait to be taught a lesson. Li Jinyan had wanted to beat up the guy in front of him for stealing a kiss from his sister for a few days. Now that he had the chance, his fist swung with a strong gust of wind, and it still hurt when it brushed past his face. His face was dodged, but his body was punched. It was so painful that his facial features were distorted. "You're serious?" Xia Jinyuan, who had been punched in the stomach, was in so much pain that his face was unrecognizable. "I've always been serious. I've never been fake. Q King, we haven't had a proper fight since we were assigned to our respective teams, right? Come, let's have a proper fight this time. Just don't hurt your bones." Since Li Jinyan had issued a challenge, there was no reason for Xia Jinyuan not to accept it. Chapter 2770. The man's blood boiled. He swung his fists, kicked his legs. He used all his fighting moves. His opponent's strength made the sweat on his body disperse. In the end, the two of them locked each other's legs and locked each other's throats at the same time to end the fight. The two of them fell to the ground and panted heavily. They smiled at each other and let go of each other at the same time. Li Jinyan, who was lying on the ground, panted heavily and smiled. "You're much stronger than before." "You're the same. I almost got punched in the face a few times." Xia Jinyuan, who was also panting, smiled and replied. It was a satisfying fight. There were a few places on his body that hurt, but it had been a long time since he had such a satisfying fight. "Don't take advantage of my sister in the future. If I see you, I'll beat you up every time." After the fight, Li Jinyan did not forget to warn him again. "What do you mean by taking advantage of her? I couldn't help it, understand? Also, as her brother, don't tell me you're always watching your sister to see if I take advantage of her? Devil, when did you become so free?" Xia Jinyuan felt helpless when faced with the devil who was always protecting his sister and couldn't wait to watch over her 24/7. "I'm not free, but if you're dishonest, I have to find time to watch over you even if I'm not free." The devil, who had calmed down a little, stood up first and threw out a sentence that made Xia Jinyuan's heart tighten. "I have to guard against you." "Guard against him? Can I guard against him?" Xia Jinyuan, who stood up next, raised his eyebrows and rubbed his abdomen with one hand. That punch was the fiercest one in his entire body. He had definitely used 100% of his strength. Li Jinyan kept walking forward. Xia Jinyuan, who was rubbing his abdomen, caught up with him in a few steps. When they stood together on a high ground, both of their gazes fell on Yi Qian, who was packing her backpack. Yi Jian, who was feeling refreshed, raised her eyes and looked ahead. When she saw two familiar figures, she waved her hand with a bright smile in her eyes. Today's weather wasn't too good. It was a little gloomy, but the smile on her face was the brightest color. The corners of her mouth curled up, and the smile slowly spread to her eyes and then to the tip of her brows. That kind of cheerful and comfortable smile dyed the gloomy sky the most beautiful color. Her smile was pure, without a trace of impurities. Li Jinyan was overjoyed to see this, but Xia Jinyuan felt as if he had been electrocuted and his body went numb. "Don't look like you're in heat," the Demon King's cold voice rang out. He was waving at Yi Qian to greet him when he unintentionally caught sight of Xia Jinyuan's expression. His brows furrowed. Xia Jinyuan, who was still rubbing his abdomen, coughed and said with a smile, "I'm not in heat. I was electrocuted." Unable to understand what he meant by electrocuted, Li Jinyan asked him, "You have 3 days of rest. One day you can go out. Are you going back home? Or are you accompanying my sister back to the Fu family?" Xia Jinyuan, whose heart had almost jumped to Yi Qian's side due to the electrocution, quickly pulled his heart back. He was so shocked that he didn't answer immediately. What he meant? Why did it sound like his brother-in-law wanted him to accompany Little Fox back home? There was only 1 day of leave. Forget it, it was better to go home separately. He hadn't been back to the Fu family mansion to visit Old Master and Old Madam in a long time. Moreover, he hadn't been there for Old Master's birthday. He should go back to the Fu family mansion for a day of leave. After deliberating for a while, he smiled and said, "Based on her arrangements, I'll definitely visit Old Master. As for my family, reporting to the military is the same as going back to my home. I need to go back to the Fu family mansion to visit Old Master and Old Madam. We might go home separately." Chapter 2771. Li Jinyan was very satisfied with his answer, and his cold expression softened a little. "It's best if you go home separately. I'll go home with my sister, and you can go back to the old mansion alone. Let your families know that you're safe and sound, and don't let them worry about you. The two of you are only in a relationship now, and it's a relationship that can't be exposed. You really need to go to each other's houses less often. You're right. We should be careful. When we get married in the future, there won't be any more scruples." Xia Jinyuan, who already knew what was going on, sighed silently. Brother-in-law is still hard to deal with. At the mention of marriage, Li Jinyan pondered for a moment, and asked in a low and cold voice with a hint of confusion, "Have you always planned to get married?" "Before I met Yi Qian, I never thought that I would consider marriage." Xia Jinyuan shook his head. He was usually calm, but now he was a little sad. "I never thought of getting married at all. Before I met Yi Qian, I always thought that I was a little *king different from the rest." Love was just a pile of junk in his eyes. "Instead of going back and forth with a woman, I'd rather hold a gun and clean it. That would be more meaningful." At this point, Li Jinyan seemed to find a resonance with him, and he even nodded gently. Seeing this, Xia Jinyuan raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Why does it seem like you have the same idea as me?" "Indeed. Until now, I've never thought of getting married, nor have I thought of having a girlfriend by my side in the future," Li Jinyan admitted calmly. "You met my sister, so you changed your mind, but I'm still holding on." "Why didn't you want to get married at that time?" he asked. Xia Jinyuan narrowed his dark eyes and thought for a while before answering. "When I was in my teens, I was a little agitated, and I suddenly became sensible overnight. That was the year I set my goal. I knew that I would be in a lot of danger for the rest of my life, and I might not even be able to live to the age of 70 or 80. It's also possible that after going to the battlefield today, they'll come back with a small box with a red flag on it. Tell me, people like us who might not even have a long life, why should we waste our time talking about love and love? Why should we date and have sex with a woman we don't know well at all? What if he leaves a seed in the world but dies in the end? Not only will he implicate others, but he will also make a woman who can completely disassociate herself from him cry her heart out. I once saw a martyr's wife receive her husband's urn with my own eyes. The despair in her eyes was something I could not forget for a long time. I would even wake up in the middle of the night. This feeling, Li Jinyan had a deep understanding of it. I'm about the same as you. In the past, I didn't have much resistance to marriage. What really made me feel that marriage was not about me alone. The situation was similar to yours. We were both comrades who sacrificed themselves. Sister-in-law, who came to pick him up, fainted for a while on the plane. After getting off the plane and on the way to the army, she fainted again from crying. When she saw him lying motionless in the sea of flowers, she fainted several times while holding her child. They were all soldiers, and they had seen too many sacrifices. Every sacrifice was unacceptable to them, and what was even more unacceptable were the parents, wives, and young children of their comrade. Every time they saw it, they would be so upset that they would vent their emotions on the training ground until their last bit of strength was exhausted. Only then would they lie down on the training ground and stare at the sky with their eyes wide open, until tears came out of their eyes. Chapter 2772. Li Jinyan found a rock and sat down. His slender legs were slightly apart, his arms were on his knees, and his fingers were crossed. He began to talk to Xia Jinyuan about the reasons why he had never thought of marriage. In the past, the two of them only had a relationship of appreciation for each other, and they didn't see each other often, so there was a sense of distance between them. Now, because of Yi Qian's existence, the two of them were closer, and it was natural for them to talk about things from the bottom of their hearts. The first time I saw a sacrifice was not long after I entered the Navy. A few days ago, the soldier who sacrificed himself stood on the island and told me with a smile that in a week, his wife would come to see him with their 4-year-old daughter. When I saw him again, his body was swollen from being soaked in seawater, and he was clutching a plastic bag with heroin in his hand. He encountered a drug smuggler at sea and was killed. The day I found him happened to be the soldier's wife and son happily took the train for a day and a night, then took the plane for half a day, and finally took a 4-hour boat ride. She carried bags of local specialties left and right, and the child held her satchel. The mother and son talked happily as they walked over. The comrade who picked up the mother and son told me that the wife refused to let the comrade carry the specialties she brought from home for fear of losing them. She also said that it was full of the comrade's favorite specialties. The comrade couldn't hold back his tears when he heard that. He was afraid of being seen, so he hurriedly turned his head and wiped his tears away. After that, he didn't dare to say anything. At this point, Li Jinyan's eyes were faintly red. They were the toughest and most fearless men, and their hearts were also the softest and most tolerant men. Even after such a long time had passed, when the sad past was brought up again, it could still evoke the softness in their hearts that was filled with sorrow. From the northernmost part of our country to the southernmost part, this seemingly weak wife traveled dozens of hours in order to see her husband and bring him joy. She came with her child full of joy. The child wanted to see his father, and the wife wanted to see her husband. Later, what she saw was her husband's face deformed, and his body was swollen to the point that he couldn't even wear a Navy uniform. It's just like that when the sky collapses. The real sky collapses is when the sky in her heart collapses. Despair, gloom, hopelessness. This is the first time I've seen her have nightmares for 3 consecutive nights. Such a topic was a common topic for both of them. Even after waking up from a dream, the feeling was similar. Xia Jinyuan tapped his chest and said in a deep voice, "Every time I wake up, my warm heart feels like it's frozen in ice. There's no warmth at all. It's so cold that I shiver." At that time, I thought that I could never get married. I didn't want to implicate an innocent woman, a family that had nothing to do with me. My chest is so tight that it hurts when I take a breath. When I woke up the next day, all of my comrades had a layer of unbreakable sorrow in their eyes. That feeling is really Another breath was stuck in his throat, and the two of them fell silent at the same time. It was as if the heart-wrenching cries of the loved ones of their fallen comrades were ringing in their ears. The pain of losing loved ones was even more painful than having one's heart gouged out. In our line of work, it's too dangerous. There's no way we can give our future wives and children a stable life. In that case, it's better not to. After a long time, Li Jinyan said softly, "If we're not careful, they'll be gone. Why bother implicating others?" Chapter 2773. Xia Jinyuan did not answer immediately. He looked at Yi Qian quietly and slowly smiled. "Demon King, I won't accompany you anymore. I will marry Yi Qian. For her, I will definitely live well. I don't dare to slack off during every training session. I'm afraid that if I slack off, my ability to protect myself will decrease, and the possibility of me sacrificing myself will increase. I don't dare to slack off for even a second, just so that I can come back alive every time I go to the battlefield. It's the same for Yi Qian. We both work hard to come back alive, so we have to seize the time to train and improve our skills. I have to live well. I have to live for the sake of the worries in my heart. Demon King, you haven't met a girl who makes you want to marry her. When you do, you will understand that love is much more interesting than wiping your gun alone." Li Jinyan quietly looked at the man who would most likely become his sister's husband in the future. He was very strong, so strong that he gave people the feeling that he could do anything. He was also very suitable for his sister. They were a match made in heaven. This pair. Nothing must happen to either of them. If something happened to either of them, the other half would probably collapse. "Then," he said calmly, "it's good that you know. You have to live well so that you can continue to receive my sister's love. If you die, Q King, I will definitely persuade my sister to find another man. She is so outstanding. Because you pursued her in advance, she missed out on the pursuit of many outstanding men. If you die, so many outstanding men that my sister missed out on might come back." Hearing this, Xia Jinyuan clenched his cheeks. "I will accompany Yi Qian to live a long life, and have many children and grandchildren. What suitors? Don't come out and be an eyesore. Then I will wait for the two of you to live a long life, and have many children and grandchildren." Li Jinyan smiled faintly. A dim light flashed across his eyes. He naturally hoped that his sister and the person she loved would live a long life, and have many children and grandchildren. He knew that Yi Qian was deliberately provoking him. Even though he knew that Yi Qian was doing it on purpose, he still felt very uncomfortable. Only by living well would he be able to see the smile on his beloved girl's face again, and make her continue to love him. He had to live well. He had pulled her to his side and walked the same path through the thorny forest. For her, he had to live well. Yi Jian had finished dressing up. Xia Jinyuan jumped up with a determined look. His tall and slender figure stood facing the setting sun, like a pine tree that would never fall to the ground. "Let's go. I have to accompany the girl that I want to marry very much." He didn't invite Li Jinyan to leave with him. Whistling, he walked leisurely and elegantly in his combat uniform towards his girl. There was a smile in Li Jinyan's eyes, as well as a faint trace of envy. He was indeed envious. Like him, Q King, who had never thought of marriage, found his sister and had the urge to get married. As for him, after drifting around for so many years, he had only exchanged a few letters with a girl whose face he couldn't even remember. After that, there was no more after that. If that could be considered a relationship, then he had at least been in a relationship once. But to find a girlfriend as outstanding as his sister who could fight side by side with him. Li Jinyan propped his hands on his knees and stood up, the corners of his mouth twitching self-mockingly. He really wasn't as lucky as Q King to meet a girl as good as his sister. Yi Qian asked Xia Jinyuan, "Your relationship with my brother is much better than before. What were you talking about just now?" You seem to be having a good time. Chapter 2774. The short hair in front of her forehead was wet with sweat and was close to the corner of her eyes. Xia Jinyuan, who was speaking, gently pushed the short hair away and smiled. We talked a lot. Course we talked about you the most. Why did you talk about me again? Don't you have anything else to talk about besides me? Yi Qian glared at him. Xia Jinyuan's smile deepened at her coquettishness. Talking about you can improve the relationship between brother-in-law and big brother. If my relationship with big brother improves, there will be one less person to stop me from marrying you. Since I have improved my relationship with big brother, there will be one less person to stop me from marrying you. It's a win-win situation, so I have to put in more effort. His teasing tone made Yi Jian elbowed him in the chest. She didn't know what had happened between the two of them, but she elbowed him with more strength. Coincidentally, she elbowed him in the place where he was hit. Xia Jinyuan let out a muffled groan when he was hit. Yi Qian immediately reacted and frowned. What happened to your chest? When did you get hurt? It's nothing. I just had a bad breath. How could he mention the fight? Xia Jinyuan hurriedly changed the topic. The devil and I didn't just talk about you. We also talked about other topics. I didn't expect the devil to be the same as me in the past and not want to get married. Yi Qian, who didn't smell the blood, thought it was just a bad breath. She didn't pay attention and changed the topic. Don't want to get married? Why does everyone think so? Everyone. Think so? That was too much information. The perceptive Colonel Xia smelled something unusual. He pretended to ask casually, who else thinks so? Me? I never thought of getting married either. Yi Qian directly admitted that she was one of the everyone in the past. I used to think that marriage was a burden. It was so comfortable to live alone and be alone without any worries. Colonel Xia rubbed his forehead. This is the first time I know that you didn't want to get married in the past. You didn't ask me why I suddenly mentioned that I didn't want to get married. I don't want to get married, but I can't afford to be pestered by you, insisting on giving you a definite answer. I clearly gave you a definite answer, but you still shamelessly stuck to me. Yi Qian glanced at the astonished young lieutenant colonel and said with a smile, I rejected you, but you didn't give up and came again. If I refuse again, you can continue to approach me. Captain Xia, you really made things difficult for me in the past. Is it that difficult? I'm not that shameless. He didn't expect his girlfriend to think of him that way in the past. Colonel Xia felt a little hurt. I used to be pretty good too. Every time I took you out on a mission, I was pretty cooperative. Later on, I even gave you a defensive weapon. Logically speaking, I should have a pretty good image in your heart. Why would you think that I'm shameless? He suspected that he had misheard. Yi Qian was amused by his doubtful expression. That's why I said you're thick-skinned. You don't even know how you're shameless. But I didn't expect that I would be attracted by the shameless Captain Xia in the end. Even though I knew you were in danger, I still couldn't help but want to see you. Xia Jinyuan liked to hear that. Looks like being shameless has its benefits too. You managed to get your girlfriend. Do you think I should teach the bachelors in the team a few tricks? Let them shamelessly chase after the girl they like? No, those tricks are all bad. Yi Qian was afraid that he would ruin their lives and quickly stopped him. Chapter 2775. Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but laugh when he saw how anxious she was. Why was she so gullible? It took him several years to woo her, and he even had to teach the bachelors in the team a few moves. Ha ha ha, he had done her a lot of harm. He was just trying to tease her. Who knew that she would really think he would do that? His girl had experienced so much darkness in her life. When she was young, her most trusted family member turned out to be the most violent perpetrator. However, deep in her heart, there was still a pure place where flowers were fragrant and birds were chirping. That was why she had such a pure gaze and a sincere heart. Xia Jinyuan, who felt pity for Yi Jian, stretched out his hand and rubbed Yi Jian's head. Look at you, how can a guy like me, who has spent years chasing a girl, pass on his skills to his comrades? No, don't worry. It won't ruin anyone's life. Seeing that he was teasing her again, Yi Jian unceremoniously threw a punch at him. Perhaps it was because he could forget a lot of things when he was with her. The laughing Xia Jinyuan even forgot that he still had some injuries from Li Jinyan's beating. He didn't dodge Yi Jian's punch. Instead, he laughed and opened his arms, wanting to pull her into his embrace. He opened his arms defenselessly, and Yi Qian's punch followed. The dull pain in his chest reminded Xia Jinyuan that he was still injured. The pain made him frown. His muscles, which were hidden under his camouflage uniform, suddenly tightened. Yi Qian didn't notice the expression on his face, but when he threw another punch, he could feel the changes in his body. You're really injured. Where are you hurt? The laughter stopped abruptly. Yi Qian pursed her lips and stared at the man who was frowning. When did you get hurt? Why didn't you mention it? Did you let K7 take a look? Xia Jinyuan, who had a lump in his throat, only smiled without saying a word. He grabbed her hand and placed it on the third rib on his right chest. It's not a serious injury. It's just a minor one. When eldest brother-in-law saw that I had secretly kissed you, he was so angry that he wanted to vent his anger. Today, he called me up and threw a punch at me without saying anything. Brother-in-law is powerful. How would I dare to offend you? He didn't even fight back the entire time, allowing his brother-in-law's fists to rain down on him like rain. See, he was gloriously injured. He could still grit his teeth and blink as he spoke, squeezing his noble and handsome face out of shape. Yi Qian, who had been worried about her, looked at her and burst out laughing. You deserve to be beaten up by my brother for sneaking a kiss on me. I warned you not to touch me, but you didn't believe me. You even got caught by my big brother. He beat you up. Serves you right. While saying you deserve it, her hands did not stop moving. She pulled his clothes out of his hands, intending to undress him to see how badly he had been beaten. I've seen my big brother's unarmed combat skills. When he fought with the water demon in the team, he easily won against 3 people. Since he wanted to beat you up, I'm afraid he used a lot of strength. Xia Jinyuan did not let her check his wounds. He grabbed her hand and kissed it gently. It's fine. He knew that we would be going abroad in a few days, so he went easy on you. He only used 60% to 70% of his strength. They're all superficial wounds. I'll be fine after 2 to 3 days of rest. Really? She felt that eldest brother-in-law would not let him off so easily. If eldest brother-in-law found out that he had secretly kissed him, he would be beaten to death. Really? If he really injured me, we would be reported to the military and both of us would be criticized. Chapter 2776. Yi Qian did not pull his shirt away again. She rubbed the wound on his second rib, her heart aching for him. She lowered her eyes, her long and thick eyelashes hiding the heartache in her eyes. She asked softly, "Does it hurt a lot? Where else is there?" Yi Qian's exquisite features were perfect from any angle. Her demure demeanor made Xia Jinyuan's eyes even more tender. Her thick eyelashes even cast a small half-arc shadow, gently trembling, revealing a fragile beauty. However, the corners of her mouth were slightly pursed, and that kind of unyielding stubbornness suppressed her fragility. It made people feel that even though she was a girl, she was a tough person who would not easily bow her head. As Xia Jinyuan looked at her, his sexy Adam's apple involuntarily moved a few times. His low voice was like an opened bottle of aged red wine, intoxicating. I was hit in several places. The most painful places are my chest and stomach. I couldn't even straighten my back when I walked just now. It was a very deep voice, and there was even a hint of pity in it. If Li Jinyan was present, he would probably beat this guy who was pretending to be pitiful to gain his sister's sympathy again. He would definitely not show any mercy. Yi Qian knew that her brother really did not like it when he touched her. How should she put it? Her brother was a little rigid, and he always kept a distance between men and women. When it was her first time training with his team, even if he needed to drag her out for a private conversation, he would walk to a place where the sentinels could see and then keep a distance of 3 meters away from her. She had no choice but to hold her breath, afraid that his voice would be drowned out by her own breathing. Her rigid brother had seen Captain Xia kiss her with his own eyes. Yi Qian could not help but chuckle softly. Her laughter was very light, as clear as the wind in the morning breeze. Xia Jinyuan knew what she was laughing at. His eyes, as deep as the ocean, darkened slightly. As his gaze moved, there was a dark glint that flashed past. "Help me rub down there. It really hurts down there." It was already filled with a perverted aura. Yi Qian did not react in time. She did not even put her guard up. She immediately rubbed his abdomen. "Here? The position of the diaphragm? A little further down. We're still going down? Why did you hit this spot?" Caught off guard, Yi Qian moved down again. At this time, her hand was only 3 or 4 centimeters away from his lower abdomen. Colonel Xia's breathing was a little hot. The darkness in his eyes deepened, as if a gust of wind had stirred up the waves. He lowered his eyes to look at the slender body that was leaning against his tall and big body. His Adam's apple moved with the movement of swallowing. Under normal circumstances, his little fox would never do such a thing. She was so shy that she would be embarrassed to touch him through his pants, not to mention reaching her hand into his pant. At this moment, her heart ached for him, so she didn't notice the little thoughts in his heart. She listened to whatever he said, afraid that he would be in pain. In truth, the Demon King's position in the little fox's heart wasn't as high as his. After all, they hadn't known each other for long. Even if they were tied by blood, it would take a while for them to become close. Currently, it was already very, very good. The little fox's willingness to return to the Fu family was the best start. After Yi Qian rubbed his abdomen a few times, his drooping eyes suddenly widened. His hand paused for a few seconds, then he retracted it as if he had been electrocuted. He said in a low voice, embarrassed and annoyed, "Xia Jinyuan, you, what are you thinking in that head of yours?" Chapter 2777. I miss you. Lieutenant Colonel Xia answered honestly without any hesitation. He missed her. Even if she was right in front of him, he still missed her. "I think my brother didn't hit you hard enough. He should have hit you until you couldn't get up." It was like a tent. Did she really think that his lower abdomen was hurt by Big Brother? Xia Jinyuan chuckled. He pulled Yi Qian, whose back was facing him, into his arms. "Silly girl, I'm a normal man. You're afraid that I'll hurt, so help me rub my chest. If I don't have any reaction, you'll cry in the future." Recalling her previous situation, Xia Jinyuan felt like he was in a dream. At that time, her body wasn't well and she was in a daze. He couldn't have taken advantage of her and lost his gentlemanly demeanor. He couldn't have ignored his girlfriend's health and done such despicable things. If everything had been perfect, thinking about it now, it was killing him. It hurt even more than when Demon Kingly hit him, and it was a burning pain. It's a normal reaction. Why are you so shy? You've only seen its shape through the trousers, but you haven't even seen its posture. Why is your face so red? Li Yunhong thought. Is it? Moving closer to her ear, Lieutenant Colonel Xia's roguish tone was on full display. Are you thinking about the pictures in junior high science class? Then, you put yourself in my shoes? In terms of shamelessness, and indecency. Yi Qian felt that she couldn't beat him even if there were 10 of her. She lifted her leg and stomped on the back of his foot. She even rolled it around to vent her anger. If you continue like this, you'll be beaten to death by my brother. Let go. I'm going to ask my brother if he's hurt. Just say that you're hurt. With your personality, I don't believe that you won't fight back when you're hit or scolded. My brother's body must be hurt by you too. Maybe it's even more painful. Let go. Let go of me. Yi Qian twisted her body uneasily. Suddenly, she exerted force on her waist and pushed forward. She used the flexibility of her waist to keep her lower body at a distance from his. This bastard. He was even talking back to him on purpose. Xia Jinyuan felt wronged. He had been standing in the same position the whole time, and Yi Qian had been twisting and turning. In the end, he ended up rubbing against his energetic partner. Don't move, don't move. Let me hold you for a while. Xia Jinyuan sucked in a few breaths of cold air. He tightly held Yi Jian, who could not wait to escape, and did not give her a chance to leave. His breath was scorching hot, and it carried the most primitive impulse of a man as it sprayed into Yi Qian's ears. I'm already 27 years old, baby. It's been 13 years since the first time. The girl I love is moving around on my body. If I don't have the slightest bit of impulse, that would be a big problem. It's a very normal reaction. You'll definitely meet him again in the future. Little fox, you have to try to accept it. You can't just call me a hooligan every time I have a normal reaction, right? How wronged would I be? How wronged would my brothers be? Yi Qian really wanted to cover her ears. She didn't want to listen. She didn't want to listen. She was going crazy. She didn't want to listen at all. What first time? What impulse? What brothers? She didn't understand. She didn't understand. She didn't understand at all. She was going crazy. If she really didn't understand, she wouldn't be so conflicted. It was because she understood that there was an introduction in the junior high school science book that she was so embarrassed. Chapter 2778. She didn't want to hear it, but she couldn't say it out loud. If she did, this guy would be even more shameless. Yi Qian, who already knew her enemy, began to try to appease him. Don't say it, don't say it. I understand. Really, I can understand. I've read some books, and I know the structure of your male body. I also know that you guys are more impulsive than women. Isn't there a saying, men are animals who think with their lower bodies? I really can understand. I wasn't paying attention just now. I was only concerned about whether or not you were hurt by my brother. I forgot that you're a normal man and your body will change after being touched by me. I'll be more careful next time. I won't let you feel uncomfortable. It's not good for your body if you hold it in for too long. You and I both need to be more careful. Yi Qian, who was embarrassed and flustered, said a lot of things in one go. She only had one goal: leave quickly. This person is so dangerous. Xia Jinyuan looked at the time while she was talking, and then looked at the sky. That's right, the heavenly duke was very beautiful. The sun had already absorbed the last ray of sunlight into the clouds. The flowing and colorful light had no way of penetrating the clouds. It could only dye the edges of the clouds with golden and purple light. It was a very beautiful sunset scene, but the most beautiful thing was still the girl in his arms. You said so much because you're afraid that I'll do something to you. Little fox, no matter how indiscriminate I am, I can't take advantage of you in the wilderness. Just don't move. Let me hug you. The pain is real. Brother-in-law was really fierce. He even hit my face on purpose. If I didn't react fast enough, you might have seen a bruised and swollen face. It's just the two of us now. Let's just stand there. Don't move. Don't move. Be good. He lowered his head and kissed her ear. When he looked up, he took a few deep breaths in an attempt to suppress all his messy thoughts. He really couldn't let his thoughts run wild. The end result was him being miserable. Colonel Xia shook his head helplessly. He had to endure it. His voice was tense. Although he said nothing would happen, Yi Qian had the keenest intuition as a woman. Her intuition told her that the man hugging her hadn't gotten rid of his thoughts. If possible, he might take the next step. Fortunately, they were in the wilderness. Although he was sometimes naughty, he always maintained his gentlemanly demeanor and wouldn't force her to do anything embarrassing. Based on this alone, Yi Jian trusted him very much. "You're too uncomfortable. Why do this? Let me go, Captain Xia. I feel bad for you." Yi Jian relaxed her body. She no longer wanted to run away like a frightened bird. She relaxed her body and leaned back into his arms. She could feel his pain completely. When it came to her, it hurt. His body still had a big reaction, but many distracting thoughts had been removed. Xia Jinyuan smiled and said, "I'll be fine after resting for a while. I don't think I've watched the sunset with you before. Look up, little fox. Look at the sky." Looking at his outstretched arm, Yi Qian's eyes curved into crescents. Beautiful. Nature's scenery was natural and unadorned. Looking at the beautiful scenery could wash away the dust in one's heart. She smiled. With such a beautiful scenery, accompanied by a man who loved her so much, everything in the world became dust. It couldn't compare to the love in his eyes. Chapter 2779. Captain Xia, let's wait until I'm a little older. When we're engaged, we can take our relationship to the next level, okay? Yi Qian spoke softly. There was a hint of melancholy in her voice. You've waited for me for so long, but I haven't given you the best. Do you blame me for that? In the tranquil scenery, surrounded by green mountains and clear waters, some words came out naturally. Xia Jinyuan laughed. The best thing is for you to stay by my side. Don't think too much. Some things need to happen naturally. I'm very happy that you care about my feelings, but don't feel burdened. When it comes to matters between a man and a woman, I only feel impulsive when I'm with you. After a day of high-intensity training, I'm so tired that my limbs feel like they're separated from my body. How can I have extra energy to think about it? No, not at all. Of course, you can't be wrong when you wake up in the morning. That's a normal reaction. Occasionally, you'll feel a little impulsive. You can run to the bathroom to relieve yourself. You won't really hold it in. This was a private topic between lovers. Although Yi Qian blushed when she heard it, she didn't avoid it. Listen, you have to know. The wind in the mountains was a little chilly. It seemed to blow past the snowy mountains in Tibet, and the chill of ice and snow brushed against their faces. In the mountains of Tibet, there would indeed be heavy snow during this season. However, Yi Qian and the others hadn't completely entered the mountains yet, so they didn't see the snow in summer. They could only feel a trace of coldness. The colorful golden-purple light at the edge of the clouds had gradually faded, indicating that the sky was getting darker. Xia Jinyuan, who was enjoying the cool breeze, calmed down the restlessness in his heart. He quietly leaned against the person in his arms and watched the last ray of the sunset with her. Night came as expected. Yi Qian, who didn't feel any pain, knew that he had calmed down. The pink on her face gradually dispersed. She felt very happy, even if they didn't say a word to each other. My brother hurt you because he felt sorry for me. Don't take it to heart. When the last ray of light disappeared, Yi Qian said softly, Master told me that he didn't have a comfortable life in the Li family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to the southernmost sea to join the army. With old man Li's and my brother's father's influence, it's completely possible for my brother to stay in the capital or join a better army. But he didn't. Like you, he didn't rely on his family. He relied on himself to get to where he is today. He wanted to protect me. He didn't want me to be bullied. You happened to be seen by him. Don't blame him for making a move. He hit you, so you must have hit him back. We're even. In the end, the two of us were just slicing and dicing. We didn't use any brute force. Xia Jinyuan gently pressed his chin against the side of Yi Qian's head. He chuckled softly and said, "Later, you'll have to worry about the Devil King. I'm sure there are a few places on his body that are hurting from my beatings." He was tall. At 1.8 meters, he was almost 20 meters taller than Yi Qian, who was 1.6 meters tall. He had broad shoulders and a narrow waist. When he held Yi Qian in his arms, he arched his back slightly as he spoke. From the back, it looked like he was completely protecting her under his wings. In the past, although the Devil King and I admired each other, there was a strong sense of distance between us. It's probably because two tigers can't live on the same mountain. When we're together, there will always be a secret competition. Now that I have you, I feel that the Devil King is actually giving in to me. He directly gave me the authority to arrange several training sessions. Chapter 2780. Xia Jingyuan's eyes darkened as he gazed at the twinkling stars in the sky. They were as bright as the eyes of the person in his arms. When the time comes, you can mention it to the Demon King. There's no need for that. He's the leader of the Storm Triforce. I'm the leader of the Snow Region Special Forces. We both have our own sovereignty. There's no need for him to take a step back because of me. I realized that the Demon King is very sentimental. The Demon King also lost control the night he punished you. It's not a big problem, but it can't work. There has to be a difference. When I punished you, he was very upset. I told him that we were able to go together. Today, it was my cruelty, your persistence. He only reacted after I said it. If it wasn't you who was punished that day, but another comrade, the Demon King would not have lost his composure. You can talk to him. You're his sister. It'll be more effective than me. If I talk to him because he was angry because you were punished, it'll seem like I'm trying to shirk responsibility. The Demon King already has a small opinion of him because of Little Fox's punishment. It wouldn't be appropriate to talk to him about it. It would seem like he was looking for an excuse for himself. Yi Qian nodded. Okay, I'll talk to my brother. He's not a petty person. After I explain it to him, he won't have any opinions about you. As for you saying that he values family, that's because… Yi Qian, who was leaning on him, paused for a moment. After a moment of silence, he said softly, "Because my brother's family isn't very peaceful." Why was her brother the closest relative to her grandfather in the future? Because although her brother had many relatives with the surname Li, they were all heartless. When her aunt married into the Li family, it was also because she liked her uncle. Like her brother didn't have any family ties. That was why he valued family ties so much. The Li family was one of the most influential families in Huangqing, and they were also warlords. Xia Jinyuan knew a little about the Li family's past. Hearing this, he nodded and said to Yi Qian earnestly, "Little Fox, you have to communicate more with your family when you go back. Tell them more about yourself. Don't let them know nothing about your past." Originally, the Fu family did not know anything about your existence. Now that you are back, you did not mention a word about your past to them. You have good intentions. You don't want your family to be sad because of your past. Actually, you're wrong, Little Fox. What have you been through in the past? Good or bad, they all want to know. They want to understand you, they want to get close to your heart. They want to treat you well and make up for all the kinship you didn't have in the past. Then, you won't say anything. Little Fox, put yourself in their shoes. Don't you think that such self-righteous kindness is a little cold? The dark sky was very suitable for talking about topics that people deeply wanted to reject. The darkness of the night could hide everyone's expressions. It could make people feel a sense of security even if they were seen through. At the same time, it could make people let down their guard and open their hearts to others. The reason Yi Qian didn't want to talk about was pointed out by Xia Jinyuan. Her expression became a little serious. "How can I be cold? I'm just afraid that they will worry." She sighed softly and had to admit that Xia Jinyuan's words made sense. "I'm afraid that they will worry too much about me. I'm also afraid that they will find out about my past and feel depressed. Chapter 2781. Upon hearing this, Yi Qian could tell that he was worried that she would not be able to integrate into the Fu family and get along well with Big Brother. Therefore, he found an excuse for her to interact more with Big Brother. What did he mean by saying that it was inconvenient for him to talk to Big Brother? It was not inconvenient at all. He just wanted her to interact more with Big Brother. This man always used his subtle way to pave the way for her, guiding her on how to walk and how to avoid more detours. Yi Qian's heart was as soft as water as she stroked his slender hands around her waist. She said gently, "Captain Xia, don't worry too much about me. I know what to do. My brother treats me very well. My father and grandfather are even more so. They can't wait to give me their all to make it up to me. Although I'm slow to warm up, I can feel their love for me. Don't worry. It wasn't easy for me to find my family. I have relatives who love me. I won't be so heartless as to squander away their kindness. Family members also need you to be good to me and I to be good to you. Otherwise, as time goes by, the family will be worn away. I understand. Don't worry. When I go back, I'll mention the past to my brother and father. Grandfather is old. I'm afraid that he won't be able to take it." Her cautious manner made Xia Jingyuan's heart ache. It was because it was too difficult to get him, so she was so careful. She was afraid that the family she had painstakingly found would be hurt. His girl was sometimes as fragile as a bubble that would disappear from his eyes with a gentle poke. Xia Jingyuan's heart ached. He kissed the top of her head and gave her the most reliable idea. "Okay. You can talk to old master about the bullying at school and let him know how close you are." Yi Qian said obediently, "Okay, I'll talk to my brother during the next few days." "After the fight, you stood on the hill together. What did you talk about? I saw the two of you looking down a few times, as if you had a lot on your mind." "We talked about some heavy topics, and our hearts felt heavy. We also talked about our marriage. I said that no matter what, we would come back alive to see each other. We would try our best not to sacrifice ourselves and try our best to hold hands until our hair turned white." The two of them chatted for a while and then sat down side by side. Yi Qian rested his head on his shoulder and listened to his low voice. He gazed at the stars that had appeared out of nowhere and whispered to each other, enjoying their quiet time together. At 7:30, 2 helicopters arrived on time. These helicopters were not sent by the Forest Armed Police, but 2 helicopters directly transferred from the army. The elevator was lowered, and the group of 15 people boarded the plane at the fastest speed. When they boarded the plane, Yi Qian found out that the people who picked them up were all comrades she knew from the military. When she heard "Good evening, babies" from her earpiece, she clearly felt the comrade sitting next to her tremble. "Shut up, J5. The pilot of the helicopter was the J5 from the military. He did not participate in the training and would not go abroad to participate in the competition. Instead, he flew the interceptor to the border of the Tibetan area to cooperate with the military patrol team. No one could stand him calling them babies. Even Yi Qian got goosebumps when he said that. Ha ha ha, sorry, I've been speaking in English every day. My tongue is still curled up. Please forgive me." Chapter 2782. J5 laughed heartily and cooperated with his comrade from the northwest, codenamed E6, who was piloting the helicopter, to make a perfect U-turn and bring his comrades back to the military. The interceptor is coming to an end this year. The fighter planes that we flew over the desert last time are all in place. This time I'm piloting this big guy. It's probably the last time I'll be in close contact with it. From now on, we'll all be using fighter planes. The interceptor will be out of our country's military history. J5 in the co-pilot seat began to talk about his mission this time. It was not a secret and everyone knew about it. Just thinking about it makes me a little sad. The first time I flew an interceptor, who knew it would be out of history so soon and become a thing of the past? Interceptors were military planes that were specifically used to intercept enemy bombers, reconnaissance planes, or cruise missiles. Its mission was mainly to protect important towns, strategic locations, and transportation hubs from air attack. This time, there was a strange situation in the High Zone. J-5 and E-6 were escorting the High Zone's aviation regiment. When the airborne radar intercepted the guy in our country's air, the two of them immediately dived down and rushed directly to the side of the opponent's wing. The opponent was probably still complacent, thinking that he had not been discovered. However, our country's interceptor flew directly at him in a menacing manner. The pilot was so scared that he immediately lowered the plane and dived again. The tail of the plane was spewing black smoke as he hurried back to his country. We didn't chase after him. After we scared him away, we patrolled with our brothers from the aviation regiment and then flew back. After we got off the plane, we found out that thing had F*King flown to the border of our country. In the end, there was a crash. The plane was gone, and so were the people. It was time to settle the score. They didn't know their own technology, yet they still engaged in aerial reconnaissance. F***, when something happened, they blamed it on our country. They even sent a diplomat to make a statement. J5's voice was cold and gloomy. What the F***, how shameless! They did something wrong, yet they're still calling the thief to catch the thief. It's in line with the usual practice of their country. At this point, everyone's face turned cold. They only dared to do this because they thought our country was easy to bully. Every time they heard something like this, as soldiers, they would be the angriest. What happened after that? Xia Jinyuan asked. J6 snorted softly and laughed. Later on, we sent their radar tracks directly to them. Good Lord, they immediately shrunk back into their shells and stopped making a sound. They even came to their country to publish an article. It's probably just to compete with a group of rude barbarians. They couldn't find a place overseas and lost face. In order to keep the people in line, they were afraid that the people would know that they were incompetent. So, they quickly found such an excuse. What a joke. Our country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is also amazing. They directly released a news report about this country's invasion of our aviation territory. They directly pointed out that if you want to regain your face, you must first have something to show for it. Relying on reports alone is just like the emperor's new clothes. It's just self-deception. The counterattack of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs made the gloomy J5 a bit cheerful. He suddenly said, "Qin Niao, you know the diplomat who just spoke. He's Qin Xiu. He's young, powerful, and quite talented." After saying that, J5 suddenly realized something. He raised his hand and patted the corner of his mouth lightly. Why did he mention Qin Xiu in front of Q King? Wasn't he just making things difficult for Q King? Chapter 2783. Yi Qian, who had no idea that Qin Xiu was interested in him, smiled and said, "That's indeed his style of speaking. He's sharp and can stand firm in every situation. He's indeed very impressive." She didn't hide her admiration for Qin Xiu, not even in front of Xia Jinyuan. Because it was purely her admiration, there was no need to hide it. After that, there was no reply from them. They're probably cursing us in their hearts again. J5 quickly changed the topic back to the plane crash in a certain country. We really didn't think of scaring them. They were so scared that they even changed their radar and crashed into a mountain. They came here alive, but they didn't come back alive. What a pity. It wasn't until now that Xia Jinyuan opened his mouth to say a second sentence. They're not good at learning, and they're delusional enough to provoke others. Even when they crashed in battle, they still respected them for being a man. Even when they tried to escape, they crashed. A pilot with such poor mental fortitude is also a warning to this country. As a commander, Xia Jinyuan was very far-sighted. For him, the plane crash was another reminder for other countries to be more vigilant. He had to secretly improve the mental fortitude of every pilot. In our country, pilots with poor mental fortitude can't become pilots at all. Out of the nearly 900 tests, they'll be eliminated if they can't pass 10 tests. Their country also sent a special force this time. Be careful when the time comes, J5 reminded. The parent of caution is the parent of caution. Don't be afraid of open attacks, but be afraid of underhanded ones. After such an incident, there might be more trouble during the competition. It was always better to be careful. Although the other party crashed and lost face in the end, the soldiers who heard it weren't very happy. Even if they won in a war of words, it would only be a temporary victory. And the real victory would be like the US, where military strength was used to speak. Who would dare to provoke them? They were courting death. They would directly send troops to open fire. Round after round of artillery shells from land, sea, and air. But our country hasn't reached such a level of military strength yet. So far, we haven't really bared our fangs and directly bombarded the countries that provoked our country. The safest way is to use diplomats and the military to state our country's position. We'll say that our country is not afraid of anything and only works for world peace. This was currently a way to preserve and secretly develop the country. If a war really broke out, it would not be a good thing. When the time comes, if they really play dirty, we'll just return the favor. Xia Jinyuan, who had already closed his eyes to rest, said in a cold voice through the earpiece, "We will return the favor in the same way that they came. Courtesy demands reciprocity, the demeanor of a great country." Yi Qian turned her head sideways and glanced at the man sitting beside her under the dim light in the cabin. His eyes were handsome, sharp, and reserved. Even with his eyes closed, he was a lion that was not to be trifled with. He looked lazy, but in fact, even when he was sleeping, he was extremely lethal. With him and soldiers like him protecting the country, with Dad and other engineers like Dad working hard to improve the country's military strength and not returning home all year round, why should our country worry about not being strong? At least, when she was reborn, she still knew that many foreign countries had borrowed a lot of money from our country. She also knew about new weapons, stealth fighter jets, and a series of main offensive weapons that were all equipped with the sea, land, and air forces. In another 15 years, our country's national strength would definitely not be what it is now. Chapter 2784. Yi Qian thought to himself with his eyes closed. At the same time, he was certain that this wasn't just a dream. He was truly reborn. Otherwise, how would she know that our country would still have an aircraft carrier 10 years later? The helicopter refueled on the way, so it was already 3 in the morning by the time it arrived at the military airport. Everyone rested in the dormitory at the military airport and departed at 7 in the morning the next day. They took the military jeep to the military headquarters. The military headquarters was the same as before. Before they even got close, the solemnity that greeted them made them nervous. Every soldier who was about to enter the military headquarters would slow down their steps and subconsciously tidy their clothes. They would gently turn their military cap, that was already properly worn, to the left and right before putting it back on with a straight face. Solemn, breath-holding, back straight. This was the feeling Qin Xiu got every time he arrived at the military headquarters. Even though he wasn't a soldier, he couldn't help but keep up with the soldiers' pace. Even his behavior became exceptionally proper. "Little Qin, after you're done with the military headquarters, you still have to go to the General Administration office. I heard that you have a lot of things to attend to in the afternoon. How about this? I'll have my daughter send the documents from the General Administration office to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You should hurry up and finish your work so that you can get off work early and spend time with Mrs. Qin." The Deputy Chief of Staff Du, who was waiting for the elevator with them, smiled gently and said to Qin Xiu, "Work is important, but so is family. Mrs. Qin chatted with my wife last time and said that she hasn't seen you in 2 months. It's good that you're working hard, but you should also spend time with your family. Family is important too, so you can't be biased." Beside him stood Du Jiai, whose delicate face was pink and fair, as if she had the most beautiful rouge on her face. When she heard her father's words, Du Jiai felt as if a deer had entered her heart and was happily bumping into her. She felt confused and sweet at the same time. In order to confirm her relationship with Qin Xiu, she specially transferred back to the General Administration Office. From then on, she would stay in Beijing so that she could spend more time with Qin Xiu. As a girl, Du Jiai smiled and said, "Dad, how can you casually interfere with other people's work? You're not in the same department, and you're not Brother Qin Xiu's superior. What right do you have to arrange Brother Qin Xiu's work?" She then said to Qin Xiu, who was tall and slender even though he wasn't wearing a military uniform, "Brother Qin Xiu, don't mind my dad. His old habit of ordering people. Go do your work, don't pay attention to him." The elevator had already started counting down. Since they had reached the first floor, Qin Xiu smiled and said politely, "Thank you, Deputy Chief of Staff Du, for your concern. I just sent a text message to my colleague in the car. I'll have my colleague retrieve the documents from the General Administration Office. There's no need to trouble you, Miss Du." His politeness made Du Jiai's eyes darken a bit. She didn't act like a spoiled little girl, so she glared at Deputy Chief of Staff Du and said reproachfully, "Dad, I told you not to make any arrangements. Brother Qin Xiu knows what he's doing." The natural and unrestrained Du Jiai not only won back some face for herself, but also her father's. Qin Xiu, on the other hand, was as indifferent and distant as usual. Even though there was a smile in his eyes and mouth, Du Jiai could faintly feel the aloofness from him. The man she had a crush on wasn't interested in her at all. Mrs. Qin even said that he admired generous and independent girls. Looking at his expression, did it look like admiration? It didn't look like it at all. A strong sense of defeat hit her in the face. Du Jiai couldn't help but gently bite her lower lip. Chapter 2785. No, it couldn't be like this. It wasn't easy for them to get to know each other and be together with him. She must seize the opportunity. She could also observe what kind of girl he liked. All along, no man had caught her eye. Those seemingly gentlemen had a different face in private. They had a hypocritical appearance, so they were elegant. Just looking at them made her feel disgusted. She had seen too many men like this since she was a child. For those who wanted to climb the social ladder, like Sun Ying, it didn't matter what kind of face these men had in private. They were interested in the money in the man's hands and the family behind the man. As for his character, TSK, it was not within their scope of consideration. Du Jiai lowered her eyes slightly with a cold gaze. The elevator had arrived. She suddenly raised her hand and pulled her father without a trace. As the elevator landed with a ding, the doors opened. Qin Xiu took a small step back and wanted to invite the father and daughter in first. Du Jiai said with a smile, "Brother Qin Xiu, you have something urgent. You go first. This elevator is here. I'll take this elevator with my father." As she spoke, she winked playfully. "I have to keep an eye on my father. I can't let him cause you trouble. I don't want him to think that you're his soldier." Qin Xiu didn't refuse, nor was he interested in her behavior. Hearing this, his elegant and handsome face was still smiling slightly. "Deputy Chief of Staff Du, then I'll go first. Goodbye." Go ahead, go ahead. Not bad, you're motivated. Our country needs people like you who are motivated and capable." The official-sounding Deputy Chief of Staff Du didn't seem to mind at all. He happily praised the capable young diplomat in front of him. Two soldiers with folders in their hands walked out. The two of them were talking in low voices, discussing something seriously. Standing by the side, Deputy Chief of Staff Du watched Qin Xiu enter the elevator with an amiable gaze. When the elevator doors slowly closed, leaving only a small gap, Du Jiai seriously criticized her father. "Dad, why do you always like to be like this? If you continue to be like this, I won't play with you anymore. Brother Qin Xiu can arrange his own affairs. What are you doing? You're overstepping your authority." "Io, so you know that you've overstepped your authority? Then aren't you overstepping your authority by trying to control me?" No, it should be called impudent. That's not it. We're just promoting a harmonious interaction between father and daughter." The elevator goes up. Qin Xiu can vaguely hear the conversation between the father and daughter outside. The red ascending arrow flashes, and he can only hear the joyful laughter of the female soldiers outside. Walking into the elevator, Qin Xiu's smile disappeared, and his expression was indifferent. Where was the gentle and reserved smile from just now? Even the aura around him has become exceptionally cold. Du Jiai also stopped smiling. Her gaze focused on the rising number of the elevator, and the corners of her mouth were pressed tightly. "Jiai, it's not easy to win over the young master of the Qin family. Look at him. He hasn't looked at you directly from beginning to end. Every time he looks at you, it's out of courtesy. Other than that, he doesn't look at you at all. Your mother is trying to build a bridge for you to fulfill your wish." Dad also admits that the young master of the Qin family is indeed talented. He can be said to be a dragon among men. He's a good choice for a son-in-law. But he doesn't have you in his eyes. Deputy Chief of Staff Du sighed softly. In his eyes, his daughter is the most outstanding. An outstanding daughter deserves a good son-in-law who can see the good in her, and not Qin Xiu who doesn't have his daughter in his eyes. Chapter 2786. A man who didn't care about his daughter, no matter how outstanding, talented, or capable he was not the best choice. Du Jiai had never let the things she liked slip through her fingers since she was a child. No matter how difficult it was to get them, she would always think of a way to get them. In the end, she would get what she wanted. She liked Qin Xiu. She liked him so much that she was crazy about him. The first time she saw this man, he was elegant and graceful. His every movement exuded a natural noble temperament. He was neither strong nor weak. When he smiled, he was like a spring breeze. When he was deep in thought, he was as deep as the sea. At first glance, she knew that he was her, Du Jiai's man. Just because he doesn't care about me now doesn't mean that he won't care about me in the future. Dad, your daughter is so cute and outstanding. How can anyone be so blind that they don't care about me? Du Jiai, whose lips were slightly pressed, smiled again. Qin Xiu is different from other men. The Qin family is an aristocratic family with a big business. Everyone in the family is from a famous family. Qin Xiu was born in such a family. What kind of woman hasn't he seen? Fat and thin, arrogant, gentle, pretty daughter of a humble family, passionate like fire. He has seen them all. Because he has seen too many, his heart is cold and hard, and he won't be easily shaken. This is called having a firm mind. He won't be easily confused by wild flowers. Dad, are you not satisfied with Qin Xiu? Du Jiai walked into the elevator with the deputy chief of staff. She pouted and shook her father's arm in dissatisfaction. How can you not be satisfied with Qin Xiu? He's so capable. Just some time ago, when a plane crashed in another country, Qin Xiu stood in front of the news release stage of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and fought back very well. Look, he wasn't afraid at all. He was very calm and very sharp when answering the tricky questions of the reporters. Dad, how can you not be satisfied with such an outstanding Qin Xiu? The deputy chief of staff Du, whose arm hurt from the shaking, had a helpless look on his face. Seeing his daughter's outward appearance, he could not help but laugh. Everyone says that daughters are always outward. Look at you, look at you. You let your father dote on you for more than 20 years for nothing. She hasn't even married yet, but her heart has already flown away. Aren't you worried that Dad will be upset? Don't worry, don't worry. Dad knows that his daughter married well, so he won't worry. He'll only be happy and gratified. At that time, he could proudly tell his old comrades, "Come, come, come. I'll show you the son-in-law my daughter found for me. How about that? Isn't it good? At that time, you will be so happy." Madame Lee gave birth to 2 sons and 2 daughters. Why did the couple like their youngest daughter, Du Jiai, the most? It was because she had a glib tongue that could make the couple happy. At this moment, the happy Deputy Chief of Staff Du burst into laughter. You're so smart. Qin Xiu." He deliberately paused, as if he was going to say something bad about Qin Xiu. When Du Jiai saw this, she pretended to be anxious. "Don't say anything bad about Qin Xiu. You have to say something good." "Ha ha, okay, Dad will say something good. I'll say something good that a smart girl like you likes to hear. Qin Xiu is indeed very capable, and he is also very clean. Looking around the city, there are not many men who are as outstanding as him in all aspects. You have good taste. I haven't seen you like this or that in all these years. Since you were a child, you always knew that you should have the best. Since you were a child, you would rather have nothing than have something substandard. This makes your mother and I feel very relieved." Chapter 2787. The Deputy Chief of Staff Du had always been very satisfied with their youngest daughter. Ever since she was a child, the couple had never worried about her. When they were in junior high school, the wife accidentally saw a torn love letter in the trash can in her daughter's study. She was afraid that her daughter would fall in love behind her parents' back, so she found an opportunity to chat with her daughter. Who would have thought that her daughter, who was only 13 years old at the time, had a look of disdain and sneered, "Mom, you're looking down on me too much. They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and they're just toads trying to eat swan meat. How could I possibly fall for them?" Little Grandma said that a woman should have self-respect. Only by having self-respect can she find the best man in the world to be her husband. I won't fall in love at school and be taken advantage of by those little boys. I want to find the best, most outstanding boyfriend. I want him to be my husband, just like Dad. When Mom finds Dad, she'll find the best man in the world to be her husband. At that time, the couple had been shocked, but they were also amused by her childish words and laughed heartily. Since then, no matter how late their daughter came home, which classmates she went out to play with, or what was in her bag, the couple had never asked. Their daughter knew what her goals were and what she wanted to do. Just like now, she only had eyes for Qin Xiu, and Qin Xiu was indeed a good man. The Deputy Chief of Staff Du smiled and said, "Since you've taken a fancy to Qin Xiu, and Mrs. Qin also wants to match you with him, with the support of the adults, you and Qin Xiu can be considered half successful. Dad won't stop you, and I also hope that he can become your husband. My daughter is so outstanding, and only a man like Qin Xiu is worthy of my daughter. Go and get along well with him. Dad will wait for your good news." The Deputy Chief of Staff Du was naturally very satisfied with Qin Xiu. His Du family's ancestors had been poor farmers for 3 generations, and they weren't a rich family. If his daughter married into Qin Xiu's family, it would be because the Du family's ancestors had accumulated good karma for their daughter to marry into a real rich family. Du Jiai raised her eyebrows confidently. "Don't worry, Dad. There's nothing your daughter can't handle, and with Aunt Qin's support, I will definitely be together with Brother Qin Xiu, so that you can benefit from being a son-in-law one day. Tsk. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Taking advantage of your son-in-law? Why don't you say that your daughter and son-in-law are taking advantage of your father? No, we want to earn our own living, We don't want to rely on the Lord. All right, Dad, we're here. Don't say anything else, lest he hears you. I'm now the one who's chasing after Qin Xiu. If others find out, I'll lose face. You're not allowed to mention anything about this outside. Do you hear me? In the face of his daughter's warning, the Deputy Chief of Staff Du didn't stop laughing. His daughter was very good. If Qin Xiu married his daughter, she would definitely be a good helper by his side. His career would definitely rise steadily, and everything would go smoothly. However, Qin Xiu's heart didn't waver at all. He hadn't seen all kinds of fat and thin women like Du Jiai said. When he was a student, his studies were very important, and after he started working, he had a lot of work. He didn't have the time to look at fat and thin women. Even if he did, it was because Mrs. Qin forced him to. As soon as he walked out of the military headquarters, his phone's signal was automatically blocked. Qin Xiu opened it and glanced at it. 2 of the messages were from Mrs. Qin, and 1 was from a colleague. He first opened the message from his colleague, telling him that he had gone to the headquarters to retrieve the documents and put them in his office. Chapter 2788. As for Mrs. Qin's text, Qin Xiu's brows furrowed slightly. His finger hovered over the button for a few seconds before he opened it. One text asked when he would be back. The other instructed him to go to the Du residence early and pick up the daughter of the Deputy Chief of Staff Du. She also told him that this was a gentleman's action and that he couldn't refuse. Going to someone else's house personally to pick up a woman and bring her home was considered a gentleman's action? Qin Xiu's eyes darkened. He deleted the text and didn't take it to heart. He called Mr. Qin and told him that he would pick up Grandpa and Grandma at Dangue Garden later. A few young soldiers in military uniforms walked out from the other side of the military headquarters. They were all tall and bulky, which made the soldier walking in the middle look even more slender and eye-catching. That's good. I don't have time here. I'm worried about sending a driver to pick them up. I'll be more at ease if you pick them up. Mr. Qin's serious voice came from the phone. Qin Xiu looked at the slender figure and said, "Okay, I got it. You go ahead." The slender figure turned a corner and walked out of his sight in the blink of an eye. Qin Xiu didn't even hang up and immediately chased after her. Yi Qian. That slender figure was Yi Qian. He hadn't seen her for half a year. He originally wanted to go to school to look for her, but he didn't expect that she would be so busy that she didn't even have time to rest. Now he ran into her at the military headquarters. Did she have something to do there during the summer break? He was familiar with 2 of the soldiers beside her. They were Commander-in-Chief Xia's son, Xia Jinyuan. The other was Brigade Commander Han's son, Han Zheng. They both knew each other, but they were just acquaintances. Qin Xiu strode forward and saw Yi Qian talking to the young soldiers. He couldn't help but stop in his tracks and didn't walk over. "We're not going shopping. We're all grown men. I'm going back to sleep. You 3 go back early. Remember to come back at 9 tomorrow morning. Major General Yang will be back tomorrow morning. You can't be late." A few of his comrades stood beside the 2 jeeps, and they still had to say a few words before boarding the jeeps. Xia Jinyuan walked alone and said with a smile, "Then the 5 of you can go back and rest. The 2 of them will go together, while I will go alone. I'll be back before 9 tomorrow morning." Han Zheng, who was texting with his head lowered, stopped texting when he heard that he was included in the team. He immediately said, "Don't drag me in. I'm not going back. I'm going back to the team tomorrow morning like the 3 of them. I just texted my mom. I want to go home. I want to eat the delicious food at home. Why don't the 4 of you come to my house? If you can stay, each of you will have a room. I won't let you sleep in the same bed. I won't stop you from going home, but you'd better behave yourself. Don't contact your old friends as soon as you come out. If I find out, I'll skin you alive." Xia Jinyuan glanced coldly at Han Zheng, who was also planning to go home. They had been friends for many years, so he knew best what kind of person his best friend was. F***ck, do you think I'm a cow? How can I still have the strength after plowing for several months? I need to go back and nourish my body. After tonight, I'll return to the team tomorrow. Han Zheng answered very seriously. He was so serious that his comrades pretended not to hear him. Instead, they all laughed out loud. They were very suspicious of the credibility of his words. Han Zheng touched his nose and felt a little hurt. Then let's go about our own business. I'll go back with Yi Qian first. Li Jinyan, who finally confirmed that he could bring his sister back to Dangue Garden, smiled coldly. See you tomorrow. Chapter 2789. He reached out to shake Xia Jinyuan's hand and bid him farewell. Xia Jinyuan reached out his hand and said helplessly, "It's too obvious that you're chasing me away. What else can I do? Take you with me?" Li Jinyan replied calmly. "You can't take me with you this time, but take me with you next time. How about that?" "No, I don't really want to be in the same car as you. It's okay, I can drive myself. I know the way, so you don't have to worry about me getting lost." Lieutenant Colonel Xia continued smoothly, and he was speaking to Yi Qian. "I still have a few words to say to you in private. We can't let them hear us." Li Jinyan's smile faded and his expression turned cold again. He said to Yi Qian, "Let's go home first. It's getting late. If you have anything to say, you can say it tomorrow." The two of them went back and forth, and Yi Qian wanted to laugh. It was an embarrassing and childish conversation, but the two people involved had no self-awareness at all. "I'll talk to him for a while. I'll be back soon." Yi Qian stood beside her boyfriend and looked at her pitifully for a long time. He really couldn't bear to reject her. Since his sister agreed, her brother naturally couldn't force her. He nodded and said, "Okay, I'll give him 3 minutes." 3 minutes? He still wanted 30 minutes. Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who was being restricted by his brother-in-law, felt wronged. He bent down slightly and said to Yi Qian, "Fortunately, you helped me. My heart is comforted." Just as Xia Jinyuan bent down slightly to talk to Yi Qian, Qin Xiu, who had been waiting with a smile, suddenly narrowed his eyes. His mind suddenly flashed back to that rainy morning when he returned from Lingguo. He wanted to give her an umbrella, but he saw her trotting all the way. She couldn't wait to throw herself into the arms of a man in military uniform like a swallow returning to the forest. At that time, the rain was so heavy that it formed a line. He was far away and couldn't see the man's face clearly. He only knew that it was a tall and slender man whose military aura wasn't hidden by the heavy rain. The tall and straight figure in the rain suddenly overlapped with Xia Jinyuan's figure almost exactly. Qin Xiu's hands suddenly clenched. However, when he saw the two of them politely shaking hands, Qin Xiu wondered if he was overthinking it. At that moment, the person standing beside Yi Qian wasn't Xia Jinyuan. It was Old Master Li's grandson, Li Jinyan. They were standing far apart. He remembered that Li Jinyan didn't like to interact with people. Back then, when the old master had returned to Dangue Garden, he and his grandparents had visited him. When the old master introduced his grandson, Li Jinyan, the two of them had politely shook hands. Li Jinyan had quickly retracted his hand. From this, he could tell that he was a man who always kept a distance from others. But now, he was standing very close to Yi Jian. Their shoulders had bumped into each other several times. Not only was he not angry, but his cold face, which was teased by the old man as having a sculpted face, actually had a faint smile on it. 3 minutes wasn't enough time to walk. Xia Jinyuan didn't step aside to talk to Yi Qian. Instead, he said, "Let's talk about it tomorrow. 3 minutes isn't enough. Call me when you get back." In the military, where there were surveillance cameras everywhere, he still kept a certain distance from Yi Qian. They looked close, but the distance was far enough that no one would notice anything. Qin Xiu saw this and thought that he was overthinking it. "Brother Qin Xiu?" A woman's playful voice came from behind. Qin Xiu's face darkened. The woman who was talking to him quickly walked up to him. She smiled. "It's really you. Why? Are you waiting for the bus? Do you want to go together? My dad said he needed to go to East Huan for some business. He needs to pass by your building." Chapter 2790. She was a woman full of aggression, but she thought she was very polite and could take care of other people's emotions. In Qin Xiu's mind, Du Jiai was full of hidden offensive power from head to toe. Her sweet smile with a hint of playfulness was just right to conceal the exuberant ambition in the depths of her eyes. No matter how well she hid it, it was useless. Although he didn't interact with women before, her gaze was enough to make him want to stay 1,000 miles away. Even talking was tiring. It was too tiring to hide too much. In order to be perfect, it was too boring to always hide your true feelings at all times. She was far inferior to the girl who walked into his heart. Even if she was ruthless, she had to be honest. Qin Xiu's eyes were a little cold. When he heard Du Jie teasing herself and a little serious, she smiled and said, "Oh my God, Qin Xiu, don't tell me you don't know who I am now. We met an hour ago. We even had a meal together last month. Last month, you came to my house with Aunt Qin as a guest. Qin Xiu, if you say you don't know me, I'll be really sad. I know I look average, but at least I'm a little bit delicate and pretty. I don't have an ordinary face that you forget when you turn around." She was very good at teasing herself. There was an indescribable straightforwardness. With appropriate expressions and appropriate humor, it was easy for people to remember her face and her person. One liked to steal the limelight and control the whole situation by herself. Everyone's attention was focused on her, and then they would listen to her and do things according to her request. The silent Qin Xiu had already analyzed the woman in front of him from head to toe. Gradually, the polite smile in Qin Xiu's eyes disappeared. Was this the best daughter-in-law his mother thought? When did Mrs. Qin, who was born in a prestigious family and received an orthodox aristocratic education, have such poor taste? She couldn't even see the ambition in a little girl? The daughter of the deputy chief of staff Du. That year, he had followed the art troupe into Tibet as a reporter and encountered an avalanche midway. This Miss Du was quite powerful throughout the entire journey. Her aggressive tone and cold attitude had greatly broadened his horizons. If he hadn't known her for a long time, he probably would have been like Mrs. Qin and really thought that the daughter of the deputy chief of staff Du was a good person. Qin Xiu's gaze was cold as he looked at Du Jie, who had appeared before him. He nodded lightly. "Miss Du, it turns out that Brother Qin Xiu knows me. I was feeling a little embarrassed just now." Du Jie patted her chest as if she had just survived a disaster. She let out a long sigh and said, "I was really afraid that you would say that you don't know me. Since you know me, Brother Qin Xiu, you always call me Miss Du, but I always call you Brother Qin Xiu. I'm a little embarrassed." Du Jie blinked lightly and asked tentatively in a negotiating tone, "Brother Qin Xiu, how about you call me Du Jie? Du Jie is better than Miss Du. It won't cause a misunderstanding, and it won't make me feel too embarrassed." That year, Qin Xiu deliberately lowered his voice and wore a lot of clothes. Even now, Du Jie didn't recognize that the Qin Xiu in front of her was the reporter Qin, who had entered Tibet with her. She happened to be standing in front of Qin Xiu, blocking him from the best angle where he could see the front. Qin Xiu, who was worried that Yi Jian would get in the car and leave, looked up and glanced in the front. His heart sank slightly. She was indeed getting in the car and leaving. Chapter 2791. Seeing that Yi Qian was about to get into the car, Qin Xiu, who was not in the mood to socialize, looked at her coldly. "Out of courtesy," he said calmly, "Miss Du, is there anything else?" If there's nothing else, I need to say hello to my friend. I've been waiting for him all this time. But you suddenly rushed out and arranged to get into the car on your own accord. You even talked to yourself for a long time like a wronged host. With Qin Xiu's self-restraint, he naturally would not say these words out loud. But what he said just now already had a layer of meaning behind it. It just sounded elegant and did not make people feel embarrassed. Du Jiayi was a smart person. How could she not understand the deeper meaning behind Qin Xiu's words? Her expression froze, and her smile was especially forced. But she did not let herself lose her composure for too long. After a few seconds, she adjusted her expression and apologized profusely. I'm sorry, Qin Xiu. I didn't pay attention just now. I thought you were waiting for the car. She saw that Qin Xiu's gaze was focused on the road ahead over her shoulder. She quickly turned around and looked in that direction as well. She apologized. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Yi Qian had already gotten into the car. Du Jiayi, who turned around, only saw the straight military green trousers and the shiny black female soldier leather shoes. But she recognized the dark green figure who escorted the female soldier into the car and carefully covered the female soldier's head to prevent her from hitting her head. Li Jinyan. It was actually Li Jinyan. Du Jiayi's eyes darkened. She actually saw Li Jinyan get into the car with a female soldier in the military headquarters. Li Jinyan, who was not close to anyone and was a loner to the point of giving her grandfather a headache, was actually traveling with a female soldier? Did she discover a big secret? Then, this secret made Du Jiayi's face darken again. Her eyebrows furrowed even more fiercely. A few years ago, after the New Year's Eve dinner, she opened the door to his car without asking for his permission and got in. Then, in front of the hotel staff, he said, "Get out of the car." She even said coldly to her grandmother, who stood up for her, "Those who are qualified to sit in my car are all engraved on the memorial tablets." Those words were like sharp arrows that pierced her heart and her grandmother's heart. The lights outside the hotel were so bright that her grandmother's face was ghastly pale. Grandpa didn't think much of it and said, "Take the same car you came in and go back. It's the new year, don't make your cousin unhappy." Don't make things difficult for your cousin? Was she looking for trouble with him? He was clearly the one who was making things difficult for her. From then on, she knew that no matter how much her grandfather doted on her, in the old man's heart, the eldest son and grandson were the most important. Even her little grandmother could not compare. And now, she saw him escorting a female soldier into the car with her own eyes. Didn't he say that everyone who could sit in his car had their names engraved on their memorial tablets? Who was the person sitting in his car now? He was even sitting in the front passenger seat. That must be someone Li Jinyan valued very much. Du Jiayi, whose eyes were dark, saw Li Jinyan close the car door and walk around the front of the car to leave. Memories of the past flashed through her mind, and she blinked her eyes lightly. The friend that Qin Xiu was waiting for, could it be Li Jinyan? Thinking of this possibility, Du Jiayi suppressed the joy in her eyes and said in surprise, Isn't that my cousin? Brother Qin Xiu, are you friends with my brother? The friend that he was waiting for was Li Jinyan. That was a good idea. Chapter 2792. It's my cousin, Brother Qin Xiu. I'll go over and say hi to him. Brother Qin Xiu, are you waiting for my cousin? Qin Xiu and Li Jinyan weren't close enough for him to go over and say hi, but when he remembered that Yi Qian was there, he didn't answer Du Jiayi and strode over. His actions made Du Jiayi even more certain that the friend he was waiting for was Li Jinyan, an annoying guy who had a very ordinary relationship with his family and little grandmother. Without thinking too much, Du Jiayi jogged past Qin Xiu and ran forward. After running a few steps, Du Jiayi suddenly saw a man who made her very afraid. Xia Jinyuan. Why is he here too? Should I still go over? The fear in her heart made Du Jiayi want to retreat for a moment, But when she saw that Qin Xiu had passed her again, Du Jiayi bit her lower lip and braced herself to continue jogging. Li Jinyan didn't pay attention to his surroundings. Now that he was in the military, he couldn't be as nervous as he was outside. He crossed the front of the car and got into the car quickly, as if he was afraid that Xia Jinyuan would suddenly chase after him and ask to go with him. When Li Jinyan started the car, he received a call from his comrades in the team telling him that they had already gotten into the car and left the military. The members of the Storm Triamphibious Commando team left in 2 separate jeeps. They were temporarily staying at the same base as the Special Forces of the Snowfield Brigade. After the final selection of people going abroad tomorrow, the water demons who weren't selected would return to the naval base. Xia Jinyuan saw that he was still holding his phone and starting the car. He frowned and raised his hand to knock on Yi Qian's car window. "Don't open it. Otherwise, we'll have to listen to him talk for a while," Li Jinyan said calmly to Yi Qian. He waved his right hand out of the car window, gesturing for Xia Jinyuan to move away. At the same time, he rolled down the car window on his side, leaned forward, and said calmly, "Let's cut the crap. It's time for you to go back to the old mansion." In front, Du Jie ran over and shouted, "Cousin, big cousin!" When Xia Jinyuan's teammates heard this, they all turned to look at him. "Cousin? Who?" When Xia Jinyuan recognized the female soldier who ran over, his eyes suddenly swept over her with a sharp gaze. That's right. He had forgotten a very important relationship. The Deputy Chief of Staff Du was the son-in-law of the Li family. Madame Li was the daughter of Old Man Li and his second wife, and Demon King Li had to call Madame Li. And family Xia didn't get along well with the Du family, but the Li family was related by marriage. "Your aunt's daughter, Du Jiayi, is here," Xia Jinyuan reminded him. Behind Du Jiayi was Qin Xiu. Why were the two of them walking over one after the other? Sitting in the car, Li Jinyan also thought about the relationship between the Du family and family Xia. Before this, he probably didn't think too deeply about the relationship between the Du family, family Xia, and the Li family. Therefore, when Li Jinyan heard Du Jiayi's name, his handsome face was slightly stunned. When he heard the 2 words, cousin, just now, he didn't realize who it was. He also didn't know that he was big cousin. He immediately raised his hand and lowered the visor in front of Yi Qian's passenger seat. "Move to the side. Don't let the people outside see you." He didn't have any sibling relationship with Du Jiayi. He even called her outsiders. Yi Qian also heard Du Jiayi's voice. She also didn't know that the person who called out cousin was her elder brother, Li. Madame Li was her elder brother's aunt. After straightening out their relationship, Yi Qian's heart shook violently. Chapter 2793. Brother, I had a conflict with Du Jiayi during the rescue in the snow mountain. Get out of the car first, don't let her see me. The shocked Yi Qian immediately revealed the conflict between her and Du Jiayi. She tried to cause trouble for me, but she didn't manage to find out where I was. Li Jinyan's face darkened. He started the car and turned on the air conditioner. Okay, sit in the car. Don't be afraid of her, I'm here for you. With that, he jumped out of the car and closed the door behind him. I'm here for you. Yi Qian's lips curled up when she heard that. It felt great to have a brother who could protect her and prevent her from being bullied. Yi Qian looked at the bright windshield with a smile. After thinking for a while, she reclined her seat and sat in the back. She couldn't announce that she had returned to the Fu family. If Du Jiayi saw her sitting in the same car as her brother, she would definitely investigate. Maybe she would really find out about her relationship with the Fu family. The Jeep's windows were very good. The people inside could see outside, but the people outside couldn't. Du Jiayi, who had already run to the front of Qin Xiu, stood in front of the car and looked inside. She smiled at Li Jinyan and said, Cousin, when did you come back to the capital? Why didn't I know you were here? Her enthusiasm was very sudden to Li Jinyan. This was something that had never happened before, so wasn't it very sudden? What's the matter? He asked with a cold gaze. Nothing, I just saw you and came over to say hi. Du Jiai sneered as she glanced inside the car. He was sitting in the front seat just now, but when he saw her, he climbed into the back seat. There must be something wrong. Could it be that Li Jinyan had a girlfriend? But he didn't want to tell his family? Xia Jinyuan had already noticed that Qin Xiu was not looking at Du Jiai. As he walked over, he kept looking at the front passenger seat of the car. He saw Yi Qian just now and came over to greet Yi Qian. At that moment, Xia Jinyuan's brain reacted and made the corresponding movements. Ambassador Qin, long time no see. He quickly walked over and blocked Qin Xiu's path. Regardless of his relationship with Du Jiai, he could not allow him to call out Yi Qian's name now. Qin Xiu didn't expect that Xia Jinyuan would stop him from greeting him. Why would he do that? Was there a reason? What was the reason? Hello, Major Xia. Qin Xiu stopped in his tracks and glanced at Xia Jinyuan's epaulet. He nodded and smiled. Indeed, long time no see. People who weren't familiar with each other wouldn't have much to talk about, but for Xia Jinyuan, he could talk about anything. He smiled and said, I saw Ambassador Qin's speech a few days ago. It was very interesting and admirable. Major Xia, you flatter me. This is what I should do. As soon as Qin Xiu finished speaking, he heard Li Jinyan say to Du Jiai in a deep voice, I need to send my colleague back to the base. Goodbye. Yi Qian had become Li Jinyan's colleague? Qin Xiu was a little surprised, but then he felt that something was amiss. Yi Qian was a military school student. How could he be a colleague of Li Jinyan, who was in the Navy? They weren't colleagues, but they called each other colleagues. Could it be this was the reason why Xia Jinyuan stopped him from greeting Yi Qian? Qin Xiu suddenly remembered that Yi Qian had been entrusted with an important task by the military to accompany him to a neighboring country for negotiations. He immediately changed his mind about greeting Yi Qian and said to Xia Jinyuan, I'm sorry, Major Xia. I have something to discuss with Lieutenant Colonel Li. Please excuse me. Chapter 2794. This is interesting. No wonder J5 warned me not to be careless. The powerful Ambassador Qin is a terrifying love rival. At this moment, he changed his mind and said that he was here for Yi Qian. It was obvious that he already knew that it was not convenient for Yi Qian to greet him. As for how he thought of this, Lieutenant Colonel Xia, with a playful smile on his lips, looked deeply at the other party and smiled faintly. Ambassador Qin, please. He was indeed a terrifying man, but he could not be considered a love rival. He liked Yi Qian, but Yi Qian did not even know about it. How could he be considered a love rival? Du Jiai did not care about Li Jinyan's attitude towards her. Everyone was the same, so there was no need to be angry. It must be a very important colleague for Big Brother to send her off personally. I shall not disturb Big Brother's work. I wonder how long Cousin will stay this time? Grandpa really hopes that Cousin can come home and stay. So does little Grandma. They both miss Cousin very much. When she looked again, she still could not see what the female soldier in the car looked like. It was obvious that she was hiding from her. Li Jinyan, oh Li Jinyan, did you think that your girlfriend would not know who it was just because you asked her to hide? It was easy for Du Jiai to find out who was in the car. She could just look at the surveillance footage. However, Xia Jinyuan pressed the button and sent a message to Commander-in-Chief Xia. Old man Xia, your son and daughter-in-law are being watched. Please inform the control room to delete the surveillance footage for the past few hours. Remember to clean up the mother shell too. Xia Jinyuan, as a Special Forces soldier, could think of the things that she could think of even more. Li Jinyan, who did not want to talk to Du Jiai, nodded calmly. I'll leave first. Goodbye. Jinyan. Qin Xiu called out to Li Jinyan, who was about to turn around. I have something to say to you. Can you spare a minute? It's about the old man. He was telling Du Jiai that the friend he was waiting for was Li Jinyan. Yi Qian was still in the car, and Du Jiai, who loved to stir up trouble, was still outside the car. Li Jinyan did not plan to talk in private. If it's not something urgent, let's talk here. It wasn't anything important, he just needed to cooperate. Seeing this, Qin Xiu smiled and said, It's nothing important, Lieutenant Colonel Li, we'll take our leave first. See you next time. Xia Jinyuan waved his hand again. Just as his hand was about to fall, he made a gesture. Li Jinyan nodded, indicating that he understood. Li Jinyan, Xia Jinyuan, and Qin Xiu were all outstanding men with high IQ and meticulous thoughts. They could understand the meaning behind a simple glance, a gesture, or a casual sentence. Seeing that Qin Xiu understood what he meant, Xia Jinyuan left with his comrades from the Snowfield Brigade. Du Jiai, who did not dare to look around, heard the sound of the car starting up behind her. Her back, which was slightly tense, suddenly relaxed. Xia Jinyuan was a scary and annoying guy. As long as he was around, she would be in trouble. Fortunately, he left. Du Jiai, who was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, felt a burning pain in her arm. Seeing that Qin Xiu was still talking to Li Jinyan, Du Jiai's eyes moved slightly. She wanted to get into the car and take a look. But before he could do anything, a cold voice suddenly shot over like an arrow. What are you trying to do? Chapter 2795. Du Jiai panicked. She hurriedly turned around and combed her hair. She frowned and complained, It's too hot. Cousin, I want to blow on the air conditioner in your car. Even Qin Xiu's expression turned cold. He said to Li Jinyan, If you have something to do, go ahead. We'll meet up again when we get back to Dangue Garden. Okay. Li Jinyan looked at him deeply. He could feel that Qin Xiu was helping him get rid of Du Jiai. I'll be at Dangue Garden when I'm free. Contact me when you're free. Qin Xiu's smile deepened. Contact me when you're free. Without giving Du Jiai a chance to open the car door, Li Jinyan stepped on the accelerator. He didn't even look at Du Jiai as he left with Yi Qian. His indifference made Du Jiai smile coldly. She stared at the car without blinking until it disappeared from her sight. It seemed like she had to make a trip to Grandpa's house today to bring him good news. Eldest cousin might have found a female soldier as his girlfriend. Otherwise, why would he let an insignificant person sit in his car? Qin Xiu watched the car leave. He glanced at Du Jiai, who was still standing in the same spot. He raised his hand to look at the time. It was 10:15 in the morning. He still had to return to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Miss Du, I still have work to do. I'll leave first. She was the daughter of Deputy Chief of Staff Du. The trip to the Snow Mountain had taught him a lot. She didn't recognize him as the reporter who went to Tibet with the art troupe, but he had already recognized him. A woman who liked to bully her comrades and wanted to show off her generosity. It was already good that he didn't leave in a huff. Unfortunately, Mrs. Qin was interested in this pair of mother and daughter. He had to talk to Mrs. Qin when he got back. He didn't want her to be bewitched by the scheming wife of the Deputy Chief of Staff Du. Du Jiai didn't know that Qin Xiu didn't have a good impression of her. She hadn't met Qin Xiu a few times, nor did she have contact with Qin Xiu's friends. She thought that she had behaved well during the few times they met. How could Qin Xiu hate her? Qin Xiu really didn't hate her. He just saw through her other side and didn't want to be with her. Du Jiai, who had always been good at reading people's faces, didn't notice anything strange. She smiled reservedly and replied, I should get going. Goodbye, brother Qin Xiu. Qin Xiu, who didn't show any displeasure, nodded at her politely and then turned to leave. Qin Xiu's car couldn't enter and leave the military headquarters as he pleased. Instead, a staff member had parked it outside. He turned around and called the driver, indicating that he could drive over. Watching his slender figure slowly walk out of her line of sight, the smile on Du Jiai's face gradually turned cold. She couldn't tell what he was unhappy about, but as a woman, she could feel Qin Xiu's indifference towards her. Just now, he could smile and talk to Xia Jinyuan and Li Jinyan, but he was only cold towards her. Even if he smiled, it was a distant smile. Why was it like this? She couldn't remember when she had angered him, and she was sure that they had never interacted before. She suddenly had a crush on him because of his elegance on TV. Why was he so cold towards her? Until now, Du Jiai still hadn't recognized Qin Xiu as the reporter who had entered Tibet with their art troupe. Naturally, she didn't know why Qin Xiu was so cold towards her. Chapter 2796. Du Jiai, who was a little annoyed, saw that her father had not come out yet, so she took out her cell phone and called Mrs. Li. After calling Mrs. Li twice in a row, Du Jiai did not pick up. She was so annoyed that even the sound of cicadas was annoying. After a while, the cell phone in her pocket vibrated. Du Jiai, who looked gloomy, saw that it was Mrs. Li and immediately answered the phone. The caller ID showed that it was Mrs. Li, but the voice was not Mrs. Li's. Jia, I'm Aunt Xiao. Sorry, your mother was trying on the gown just now and didn't receive your call in time. What can I do for you? Madame Zhao's gentle and benevolent voice drifted over, and Du Jiai's face instantly broke into a smile. Auntie Xiao, you're with my mother? It's nothing much. I just wanted to ask about her preparations. Aunt Xiao, will you come with us tonight? That's great. Then I will have 2 mothers to accompany me. A series of questions made Mrs. Xiao laugh. Mrs. Li, who had come out of the fitting room and was standing in front of the mirror, said to the waiter at the counter, Chenglan, Jia is clinging to me and you again tonight. No, we have to drive her away. If she stays with us all the time, those outstanding young men will definitely not dare to talk to her. We will delay Jia from finding a boyfriend again. Mrs. Li was in the shopping mall choosing the gown to attend Mrs. Qin's birthday party tonight. Her cell phone was in her bag, and the bag was held by Mrs. Xiao, so she did not receive Du Jiai's call. When she came out of the fitting room, she heard her friend say that her cell phone rang twice, so she asked her friend to see who it was. After knowing that it was her daughter, she asked her friend to call back. Hearing this, they couldn't help but laugh. It's not like you don't know that this child is a tyrant. She won't show her cowardice if she walks with us. If you really leave her alone, you won't be able to recover in 10 minutes. She hates these things the most. If it weren't for the fact that you and I are present, it would be a problem. After that, she said to the waiter who was half squatting to tidy her up, My waist is a little uncomfortable. Did you make a mistake? This was a famous custom-made qipao in the capital. Madame Li and Madame Xiao were regular customers here. The waiter quickly opened the invisible zipper, folded it inside, and pulled the zipper up again. Only then did Mrs. Li feel that her waist was not tight. When it was Ms. Zhao's turn to try it on, she picked up the phone. This time, she didn't turn on the speaker. When she heard her daughter's voice, she waited for Madame Xiao to enter the fitting room before saying gently, Your father called me just now. He said that Qin Xiu went to the military with you this morning. Jiai, did you tell him about what happened tonight? Du Jiai, who was not in a good mood, said in a low voice, I didn't ask. Dad asked for me. He said he would try to go back as soon as possible. Mom, although Aunt Qin said it, Qin Xiu didn't agree, so I can't force him. I don't want him to have a bad impression of me. Furthermore, she paused for a moment before continuing, also, I feel that he's very cold to me. He doesn't treat me differently just because Aunt Qin likes me. Everything has a process, and this process is a progress. Didn't your Auntie Qin say that Qin Xiu is someone who doesn't know how to please a girl? That's right. If he treats you well one day, it means that there's progress between the two of you. Chapter 2797. Mrs. Li could hear the sadness in her daughter's voice, so she couldn't help but comfort her. Qin Xiu, this son-in-law, needless to say, was a one-in-a-million choice. As long as her daughter married into the Qin family, all her wishes in this lifetime would be fulfilled. In the future, the Du family would be a cut above everyone else no matter where they went, and they would be held in high regard wherever they went. How many of the people who laughed at her for marrying a military officer could be as good as her now? She would be the real winner after her daughter married into the Qin family. Du Jie walked to the shade and stood there, but her mood didn't lighten up. A few years ago, he and a senior official from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs welcomed an important guest to China for an interview. Because of his good looks and outstanding aura, the camera that usually only focused on the leader gave him a close-up. Although it was only for 4 seconds, it made her remember him. She couldn't stop her crush. It wasn't until 3 years later that she confessed to her mother that she liked a diplomat. At that time, her mother thought she liked a normal diplomat. It wasn't until she saw the photo that she realized she liked Qin Xiu. At that time, the Du family and the Qin family had just met, and her mother and Mrs. Qin had just met. It wasn't until this year that the relationship between the Du family and the Qin family improved, and her mother finally brought her to meet Mrs. Qin. Everything had happened so naturally that she had finally arrived in front of him. She spent so much effort to meet him. No, she couldn't be discouraged by Qin Xiu's indifference to her. She had a crush on him for so long, and she had to have a satisfying ending. Jia Yu, seeing that her daughter didn't speak for a long time, Mrs. Li didn't even have the mood to pick out a dress. She picked up her phone and wanted to persuade her again. Du Jia's voice came from the phone. "It's so hot outside, Mom. Don't worry, I'm fine. I've persisted for so long, how can I be defeated by his indifference? Since he's like this to any woman, then I don't have to be discouraged. The more he's like this, the more I won't let go. Mom, wait for my good news. I'll definitely make Qin Xiu your son-in-law. You and Auntie Xiao, I'll go home after I send Dad back to the General Staff Department." She waited patiently for Qin Xiu until he became her boyfriend. If it were any other matter, she would have used her methods long ago. But Qin Xiu couldn't do it. She didn't dare to use too many tricks, fearing that this man who smiled like a clear breeze and bright moon would go further and further away and in the end become a stranger to her. For Qin Xiu, she had to be very careful. She couldn't afford to make any mistakes. The Deputy Chief of Staff Du walked out and looked around when he didn't see his daughter outside. He saw his daughter waving at him while talking to someone. "Mom, Dad is out. I won't talk to you anymore. See you later. Bye-bye." Hearing her daughter's energetic voice, Mrs. Li nodded in satisfaction and hung up the phone. Of the 2 sons and 2 daughters, her youngest daughter was the one who resembled her the most. When they got into the car, the Deputy Chief of Staff Du was tickled by his daughter's request and burst into laughter. "My dear Jiai, do you really think I can access the military's surveillance system just because I want to? You're a soldier, how can you be so naive? Even if it's the General Staff Department's surveillance system, I can't access it just because I want to. The military? Ha, you really dare to dream." Chapter 2798. After getting into the car, Qin Xiu was on the phone with Mrs. Qin. When he found out that Du Jia was arranged to be his female companion, Qin Xiu, who was usually gentle and elegant, had a terrifyingly gloomy expression on his face. "I won't go to Deputy Chief of Staff Du's house to pick Miss Du up, nor will I let her be my female companion. After I finish my work, I'll go to Dangui Garden to pick up Grandpa and Grandma. Tonight, I'll be with them the entire time. Mom, although Grandpa and Grandma aren't in charge now, if you go too far and ask Grandpa and Grandma to step in, how will you face them?" She was a little impolite, which made Mrs. Qin, who was at home, so angry that her heart ached. The older her good son grew, the more daring he was to talk back to her. Now, he even brought up Grandpa and Grandma Chin. "If you brought home a girlfriend with a clean family background, I wouldn't have to worry about you." Mrs. Chin, who was rubbing her chest, was also furious. She sat in front of the dressing table and smashed the comb in half. "This won't do." "Which one won't do? Do you really want to stay single for the rest of your life? Your grandpa and grandma aren't in charge now because they've completed their responsibilities. Their children have already started their own families. As for you, I had the responsibility to arrange everything for you since I gave birth to you. When you get married and have children, my responsibilities will also be completed." Every time this topic was brought up, Qin Xiu felt helpless. He could easily deal with the difficulties of other countries, but he felt powerless every time he faced his mother's questions. "You can remove this unnecessary responsibility and let me make my own choice." "Mom, you say you're tired, but how can I not be tired too? Today is your birthday. I don't want to make you angry. I'll hang up first. See you tonight." After putting away his phone, Qin Xiu couldn't help but pinch between his eyebrows. Every time he called Mrs. Qin, he was so tired that he felt like he had been working for days and nights. "Ambassador, there's a car following us," the driver suddenly said. "It just caught up not long ago." Qin Xiu immediately restrained his expression and turned his head to look back. When he saw the car and the license plate, his tiredness disappeared and he smiled at the driver. "My friend, pull over." The two cars stopped. Li Jinyan and Qin Xiu got out of the car one after another. "Thank you for just now." Li Jinyan got out of the car and walked over. "You came over because you saw Yi Qian, right? I'm sorry, but it's not convenient for Yi Qian to get out of the car now. Please forgive me." Sure enough, it was inconvenient for others to see. Qin Xiu smiled and said, "Why don't you get out of the car? I'll go over and say hello. How about that?" "Must I go and greet him?" Li Jinyan couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Why did he feel that something was amiss? Li Jinyan, who was confused, nodded and took Qin Xiu back to his car. Yi Qian, who was sitting in the car, was a little surprised when he saw the two of them walking over. Why did they bring Qin Xiu over? After the two of them walked past, Yi Qian rolled down the car window. Qin Xiu walked over and saw the girl who had fallen into his heart wearing a military uniform. She sat in the car and looked at him with her bright eyes. "Long time no see, Yi Qian." He stood outside the car and had no intention of getting in. He smiled and said to her, "When I saw you just now, I was a little surprised. I didn't expect to see you in the military." Yi Qian smiled and said, "Indeed, it's been a long time. I didn't expect to see you in the military either. I almost got into trouble just now, didn't I?" They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Qin Xiu wanted to chat with her for a while more, but he knew that he had to walk over and say hello. He had already surprised the two of them. It wouldn't be good to waste time chatting. "I'm sorry. I was reckless just now. I have to apologize to you." Chapter 2799. Li Jinyan saw that he didn't even intend to get in the car, and his tone was very polite, so the strange feeling in his heart disappeared. He was so modest and polite that Yi Qian, who didn't get out of the car, felt a little embarrassed. No, you don't have to apologize. It's my problem, it has nothing to do with you. You see, I haven't gotten out of the car yet, it's already very rude of me. You should apologize to me again, Qin Xiu. Based on our friendship, I really wasn't being polite, I should be the one apologizing. With the friendship between the two of us, I really won't be polite." This sentence made Qin Xiu's eyes full of smiles. Under the sunlight, the elegant man with a smile on his face was like a noble young master who had walked out of a painting. He had a scholarly aura and a noble aura. His black eyes, which looked like they were carved from black jade, gently looked at Yi Qian. Looking at the girl in front of him who could make him feel happy with just one sentence, Qin Xiu said softly, "I was too polite. Based on our friendship, you really didn't have to be so polite." As if he felt that he had revealed too much of his inner feelings, Qin Xiu immediately adjusted his tone and said, "I won't tell anyone about what happened today. Don't worry." She could see him, but she said that she couldn't see him because of personal problems. Then, there was only one person she couldn't see. Qin Xiu, who was standing in the same place as he watched the car leave, couldn't help but purse his lips. There was only one person who didn't see Yi Qian, and that person was Li Jinyan's cousin. The person Yi Qian couldn't see was Du Jie. In the car, Li Jinyan asked Yi Qian, "What kind of friendship do you two have?" "We've been through life and death together," Yi Qian replied with a smile. Li Jinyan knew that it wasn't convenient for him to ask any more questions. Been through life and death together? What was a life and death friendship? It was a life and death friendship that could only be described as a life and death friendship. His sister had been on a mission with the excellent diplomat who had stood watching them go. Li Jinyan glanced at the rearview mirror outside the car. The young diplomat, who was dressed elegantly and had a gentle temperament unique to the Qin family, stood there motionlessly. Even when Li Jinyan drove the car 100 meters away, he still stood there and watched. The strange feeling that had disappeared in an instant suddenly surged into her heart. Qin Xiu seemed to treat her younger sister a little differently. He clearly didn't have to come over to say hello, but he still came in the end. He obviously didn't have to stand there, but he just stood there without moving. Could it be that they were different because they had gone through life and death together? This was also a possibility. Li Jinyan did not think too much about it. Instead, he asked how Yi Qian had offended Du Jie. Although he had participated in the rescue mission that year, he didn't know that Du Jie was part of the rescue team. In addition, he wasn't familiar with Yi Qian at the time, so she didn't mention what had happened with Du Jie during the rescue mission. Now that Yi Qian mentioned the Snow Mountain rescue mission, Li Jinyan was stunned for a few seconds. "You said that Du Jie was one of the people we lost contact with when we went to Tibet for training?" "Yes, and the enmity between us started from that night." Thinking about the conflict between herself and Du Jie, Yi Qian's eyes were cold. Even now, she didn't regret going against Du Jie, whose words were like needles. Yi Jianjian recounted the verbal conflict that night. Although it had been a long time, her memory had always been good. She could recount every word that Du Jie had said, as well as what she herself had said, one by one. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.